it. A radio DJ invites the whole town to some bullshit, and assuming the many universes theory of quantum mechanics is accurate, the review you've just seen will remain relevant in another reality for all eternity. For more, visit theonion.com/newsbeat.
Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, and you're invited. If you want to join us here, you can. Toll-free number is 855-450-FREE like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. With you in the studio tonight, you've got Ian.
And Aria.
And JoeBiden.info.
COVID has taken this year, just since the outbreak, has taken more than 100 years.
Huh?
Look, here's the lives. When you think about it, more lives this year than any other year for the past 100 years.
Just think about it. I don't know what he's trying to get me to think about.
100 years. 100 years.
100 years?
Just think
what?
about it.
More lives?
More lives.
More
taken.
lives what? Oh, taken.
COVID has taken this year,
Now you'll understand.
just since the outbreak, has taken more than 100 years. Look,
See?
here's the lives. When you think about it, more lives this year than any other year for the past 100 years.
Now, I'm going to go and say I don't think that's a deep fake. I think that's real.
It sounds real.
It sounds real. And, yeah, I mean, you can fake audio, right?
Sure.
Like, they've been able to fake audio, and certainly there's enough of Biden out there speaking probably every inflection, vocal sort of inflection that he can possibly speak. So, yeah, it could be fake. But I'm
based on everything else we've seen from Biden, I don't see any reason to believe it's not real. I mean, it sounds like Biden. It sounds like stuff he says.
It really does. It is hilarious.
It's taken more than 100 years. Wow. This virus has lasted a lot longer than I thought.
So we'll talk to you about anything that you want. That came up last night. I think it was. Somebody posted that in our chat room on our Discord server over at discord.lrn.fm. So thank you for sharing. We love little gems like that. And, if there's a big gaffe like, that Trump makes in that way, I'd be happy to play that too. But he seems to be keeping his wits about him better for being up in his years than Biden.
I don't know. Trump has said some really stupid things, like regarding the hurricane that hit Texas. He said this is the wettest one we've ever seen from the standpoint of the water. And it's just like, it's every bit as dumb as the stuff that Biden says. And that's 2020, two senile old men. I can't wait for these debates, dude. They're going to be glorious.
I don't ever want to watch these debates generally, but this time I have to admit, I am curious to see the carnage. I mean, I just want to see how this goes. I probably still won't actually watch it live just because it will still probably be kind of boring.
Oh, there will be huge chunks of boring parts.
Yeah, but somebody's going to cut out the real winners, and it won't take them more than like that morning. It'll be out the same day or the next day, whatever the highlights were. So
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to that. We're going to go out to start the show tonight as far as news and things to discuss, because there's, as always, more than we can possibly get. I've got at least, 15 items here on my show prep, some of it going back for weeks. I wish we could talk about all of it, but yet 7 nights a week we're here and we still don't, we still can't get it all out there.
There's just too much happening.
Yeah, we're going to start in California, where Calexit is back in the news. And then I've got another strange story to tie in with that. But what is Calexit?
I don't recall what initial...
Really?
Yeah, I don't recall the very beginnings of it. I remember it had something to do with, the post-Brexit secessionist. Mm-hmm. Everyone was all giddy about secession from, collective federalized entities like the European Union. But I don't know what really motivated the Calexit people to want to secede in the first place. Do you?
Yeah, so we covered Calexit. It started, according to Wikipedia, it was 2015. So it's been half a decade since Calexit got its wings underneath it. And it is Yes California, a Californian political action committee that promotes independence for the state of California. The founder is now living in Russia. So he decided he didn't want to stick around for this. But regardless, the idea did get out there, and it was always more of like a leftist secession movement, which is what you would expect to have happen out in California. And I think they need to succeed at seceding and leave the United States, because it would be wonderful for the socialists to have a socialist hellhole where they can go and, have
the guy who
socialist
started
programs.
it did go to Russia.
Yes, he did. He didn't, like I said, he didn't want to wait around for it. But apparently they're back in the news. So what's going on?
They are. The people behind the plan are now looking to establish cryptocurrencies as the financial backbone of the proposed nation.
Okay, smart move.
Yes. The movement is called Yes California, as you noted, although most people know it as the Calexit movement.
Right. I think it was sort of unofficially renamed that after the Brexit thing.
Okay, so it predates Brexit?
I don't know. When the hell did Brexit start? I don't feel like it was 2015, but maybe it was.
Brexit started a long time ago. A better question would be, when is it going to finish?
Yeah, have they even exited the European Union, or is that still being kicked down the
I stopped following it.
path?
I don't think they've left.
Wow.
So the group recently appointed a blockchain expert named Alistair Caithness.
Sorry to interrupt you. Brexit, UK-wide referendum was June of 2016. So yes, California does predate.
Cool.
Yeah.
Good for them.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to analyze how an economy based on digital assets like Bitcoin could be used to guarantee a universal basic income, or UBI, for its citizens.
Well, Intercoin has something to say about that.
They do.
They do. In fact, thanks to Intercoin, every member of a community can receive a periodic airdrop of money they can use on necessities. But the thing with the way Intercoin's got it set up is this is totally voluntary. And maybe that's what they're talking about here. I mean, I don't want to jump to any conclusions about what these people are willing to do.
I sincerely doubt theirs is voluntary.
I suspect you're right about that. But in the case of Intercoin, it can be funded voluntarily, and the community that is involved in that coin can democratically vote, if that's the way it's set up, to increase their internal money supply, which, again, totally consensual activities. And so you can power these community currencies by Intercoin and enable communities to help their own without waiting for the federal government and without disincentivizing paid work. The arrangement is completely voluntary and democratic. Now, Intercoin is attempting to regain some of our freedoms that are threatened on the internet and in meat space, and we think that's important here on Free Talk Live. So we accepted $40,000 worth of Intercoin tokens from Intercoin Incorporated for advertising. If you think freedom is important too, check out Intercoin at intercoin.org. You can invest in this project and potentially make big gains, or just be involved and perhaps shape its future. Intercoin.org. Now, I don't know if Bitcoin is going to be able to do what they want it to do.
I doubt it. But Caithness praised the idea of a future crypto-based economy, which he believes could finance a level of free healthcare, free education, and a form of basic income at a scale that has never been seen before.
Okay, that sounds like, with the UBI, it seems like something could be done, right? Like that you could get people to voluntarily contribute to a UBI. You can set a goal and you can contribute to that, and you know what the fixed costs are of that. But with something like healthcare, I mean, yeah, you can take donations for healthcare for sure, but you never know what the costs are going to be, right? Like a bunch of people could get sick or whatever, and the cost could increase.
There could suddenly be a pandemic.
A real one. There could be a real pandemic that real people actually got sick and die from. I'm not saying no one's gotten sick from COVID, but very few. Very few, only COVID deaths. But yeah, I would love to be proven wrong. I mean, I hope that they can come up with some sort of voluntary socialist, communist, whatever you want to call it, initiative to do their, have their dreams come true. But I'm skeptical.
Yeah, it sounds like they hired someone who had no understanding of economics to do their economic planning.
Well, I mean, what would you expect from a leftist movement?
Right.
These are generally people who don't get economics. That's not to say they couldn't learn, but they haven't been reading the right books.
He goes on to say that Californians have struggled to achieve economic liberty under the financial system established by the U.S. government.
And let's be clear, that is not a good system.
It's not.
So
but you're not going to have more economic liberty in a system that creates free healthcare, free education, and a free universal basic income.
No doubt, but I will give these guys credit for actually considering to like continue the idea of money, because there's a lot of people on the left who they see how bad the money system is, and then they're just like, well, money is the root of all evil. We don't want anything to do with money. So at least they've gotten that far in that they're willing to accept that money should continue as an idea. And a lot of the people on the left that I've seen, like the progressive communist types, they hate money. So that could be another schism in their movement. The toll-free number here is 855-450-FREE. We got more on Calexit and crypto. You can take control of the airwaves. Free Talk Live.
News from news.bitcoin.com. U.S. Postal Service files a patent for new blockchain voting method. Warren Buffett changes his opinion on gold. Maybe Bitcoin is next. $6 billion Acon cryptocurrency city underway. Former Prudential CEO says now's the time to buy Bitcoin. Bitcoin.com is your source for getting started with cryptocurrencies. Getting a wallet, buying Bitcoin Cash, mining, and all the latest cryptocurrency news at news.bitcoin.com. Subscribe to Bitcoin.com's YouTube channel, too.
Want to accept Bitcoin at your online store? There's a good chance you already have what you need: a WordPress using WooCommerce and a Bitcoin address. Now all you need to start taking Bitcoin payments on your website is the AnyPay app on your Android or iPhone. Just paste your Bitcoin address into AnyPay, then connect it to your website with our one-click plugin for WordPress. Now your website takes Bitcoin, start to finish in 15 minutes or less with no complicated steps. Download AnyPay from the App Store today.
Got shaving irritation? Shave Secret shaving oil can help stop it. Shave Secret doesn't cost much and is an all-American product. My name is Chuck Howard, and I developed Shave Secret and pioneered its use starting back in 1991. Ingrown hairs drove me nuts for years. Shaving oil changed all that. Why put up with ingrown hair, bumps, red rash, nicks, and cuts? Shave Secret provides men and women with what we believe is the best shave ever. Our proprietary blend of 100% natural base and essential oils, plus a hint of menthol, was designed to help eliminate shaving irritations like ingrown hairs, bumps, red rash, nicks, and cuts. We'll lose those shaving irritations. Available at Super Walmart, H-E-B, Wegmans, Giant Eagle, Discount Drug, Navy and Marine Exchanges, Amazon, and ShaveSecret.com. Use the code FTL for Free Talk Live and get a discount. Shave Secret, the best shave ever.
Here is the Onion Weekend Review Transportation Edition. In Albany, a Greyhound bus crash claimed 30 miserable lives Tuesday, finally putting over 24 deadbeat fathers, penniless drug addicts, and hapless bastards out of their misery. Emergency crews at the scene of the merciful accident described the sea of fast food bags, candy bar wrappers, and losing lottery tickets surrounding the crash site as utterly tragic, adding that the scorched corpses inside the bus were, quote, only slightly more lifeless than before the deadly accident.
Evidence suggests that most of the victims suffered during the crash, and for many years before they even boarded the bus. All I can say is, thank God no one made it.
Al-Qaeda is refusing to carry out any further terrorist attacks until the U.S. mass transportation infrastructure is drastically improved, calling the country's roads and bridges a, quote, travesty, unbecoming of a developed first world nation.
We want to turn your bridges into rubble. But if we took credit for making them collapse, no one would ever believe us.
This is the Onion News Network.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
Free speech is protected on the internet, right? Not always. Government agencies try to limit free speech and commerce on the net. Luckily, when they do, the Institute for Justice is there to defend your First Amendment right to free speech. IJ helped set the first federal precedent for internet free speech in 1999, and ever since has worked to prevent unconstitutional roadblocks in cyberspace. Visit our website today at ij.org.
You can put the Liberty Radio Network on the air in your area. Visit broadcast.lrn.fm to learn how. Broadcast.lrn.fm.
It is Free Talk Live. You can bring up whatever you want. All you have to do is dial toll-free here at 855-450-FREE like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. We're talking about, two different topics that haven't really come together before. I mean, we have talked about secession on a number of occasions in the past on Free Talk Live. It's one of my favorite topics. It's an idea whose time, I think, has come again, and it needs to happen peacefully this time. But then combining the topic of secession with cryptocurrency, the folks out in Calexit, the movement called Yes California for independence for California, to leave the United States and become its own nation, which I fully support. I'm not moving there, but I fully support them. I hope that they can do this. So to combine those two together, because apparently it's in the news, at least in the crypto sphere, that Calexit is openly talking about using Bitcoin or some other kind of cryptocurrency technology to create their leftist dreams, like universal basic income, or I think free healthcare, they said, was education on that list. Free education on that list.
And Bitcoin can't do those things, but Bitcoin Cash has a tokenized system that probably could be made to do it.
Well, okay, so now that's an interesting question, right? Like, you can go and you can make a token on Bitcoin Cash or various other things, Ravencoin and Ethereum.
Well, that's how Intercoin does it. They're an ERC20 token.
Right. You can go and cook up a token, no problem anywhere. But is someone going to value that token? That's the ultimate question. Because I can go and I could make 1 billion Aria coin tonight.
Yeah. It's very easy to do.
5 minutes, you know? And you could also make 1 billion Aria coin.
I've made a few coins.
Right.
None of them are named after myself.
No, and I wouldn't. That's why one of the reasons I'm not interested in making tokens. I feel like the world has enough of them. I don't think that I can bring anything else new to the table in that way. But that said, if these people make a bunch of Yes California or Calexit coin or whatever tokens, then maybe they will find a value. Maybe they'll be able to use them as a fundraising tool. I mean, it could happen.
I would buy a few just for the
novelty of it.
Yeah, well, for the same reason you have the $10 trillion notes or whatever hanging up here.
Yeah.
It's like, this is going to end badly, but...
Well, the $10 trillion notes you're talking about from Zimbabwe.
Yeah.
And that was...
what do you think the socialists in California would do to their token?
Well, but this note was purchased after it was no longer worth anything at all. I mean, it was worth very little toward the very end of the Zimbabwean dollar scheme, but ultimately when I bought it, it was, or whoever it was, maybe somebody gave it to us, I don't remember. So thank you to whoever gave that to us, it wasn't worth anything. It's just
a collector's
item. And the same thing's true of actually those Bolivar were sold to Daryl Perry at the time they were actually still in circulation, but that was cool because then we were buying them from somebody who wasn't the government. And so when Daryl paid for the Venezuelan Bolivar that you see on the wall there in the studio, that actually helped feed somebody, because...
Oh, because they had USD.
Yeah, they traded...
Which actually had value.
Right. Exactly. So, I probably wouldn't buy the Calexit token for the same reason that I wouldn't buy the Venezuelan so-called cryptocurrency that no one outside of Venezuela has, that I am aware of, ever been able to get a hold of. The Venezuelan petro, because...
That's because it doesn't seem to really exist.
But if it did, and if I could buy it, there is the novelty factor. However, you're also helping an evil government. So...
Well, you could probably buy it directly from a Venezuelan in the same way that you did the Bolivars.
Yeah.
It would be a lot of trouble, and it wouldn't really be, worth it. It's like, how much
really
do you want to have this novelty item?
That's the thing. I don't want to encourage them, right? So it's still, even though you'd be buying it through another person, you're still sort of giving it some legitimacy by even paying attention to, or certainly giving it your attention and your time and putting your value into it. So given that you would expect Calexit coin to fail miserably, it's just a bad idea from that perspective. But also, if these guys do want to be the government in California, I suspect, as you do, that they're not going to be doing things voluntarily.
No. And this token, or however it is they proceed, it wouldn't work out in the long run. But Scottish national Caithness, who is residing in San Diego, also...
This is their blockchain expert that Calexit hired.
The blockchain expert who doesn't seem to be an economics expert. Also stated that people investing in land and property through crypto transactions could help boost the proposed implementation of universal basic income.
I'm not sure how that is unless there's a tax on those things, right? Because if you go and you buy, what was it, land and something else? If you go and you buy a house and you pay with cryptocurrency to the recipient who owns the house, then how is that going to help the UBI exactly?
That's what it sounds like they would have to do.
They have to tax
it. Like slice some right off the top and give it to the government for the UBI or whatever. Marcus, I don't know why I pronounced it Marcus Ruiz Evans, Yes California's president, is advocating for these measures as well. He claims that California is the world's 5th largest economy and praised the advice in adopting crypto, stating people need assistance, especially right now, and government is struggling to come up with somebody. He continued, it's also good to have a Scotsman now living in California involved in our project, as the model for a sovereign California has been developed from the Scottish independence referendum.
Oh, okay. Which didn't pass, if I recall correctly.
This, I assume he's referring to Scotland's repeated attempts to extract themselves from the UK.
Yeah, I think they've done it more than once.
Oh yeah, for centuries now. According to Yes California, the state government has agreed to hold a public petition into Calexit this year. They claim that a possible formal voting process could take place by 2024.
Now, the statement that the government has agreed to hold a public petition, it's written very strangely. It sounds almost like the person may not be a native English writer who wrote the article, because my understanding is that when they say hold a public petition, that just means the government has approved the application to do a petition.
Why do they have to approve anything? You have the right to petition the government, right?
It's California. I'm pretty sure you have to go to the government to apply to petition in the first place. I think that that's the way things work out there. So somebody from Calexit went in and said, all right, we want to do a petition. What do we need to do? And they filled out whatever forms they need to fill out. And now, according to the Yes California website, which is yescalifornia.org, they are looking for more than 600,000, and I don't have the exact number in front of me, but I did earlier, 623,212 signatures are what they need. So that may be a process that is beginning now.
Don't they also say on their website, what are you going to do when Donald Trump is reelected?
That's the pitch right here on the front page at yescalifornia.org. That's the big text. And then below that it says, it happened before, it will happen again. The time to prepare is now.
But their formal voting process could take place by 2024, by the end of Trump's next presidency.
Sure.
So
but it's still time to go.
How is this going to help?
It's just they're trying to motivate people. They're trying to get people to pay attention. Like, hey, now's the time to leave. Let's get working on leaving, right? Like that's because it's a process. Sure. They got to get this thing on the ballot, and then people got to vote, and then, like with Brexit, it'll probably take a decade or something like that. We can talk more about Calexit. You can share your thoughts on it, or what other secessionist movements are hot right now. Are there some other hot spots out there in the world? 855-450-FREE. You can join us here on the radio. This is Free Talk Live.
Free Talk Live is aired on nearly 200 radio stations throughout the week, and we've been doing this for almost 18 years. You can call in any evening from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern to talk about whatever's on your mind. Sure, you can waste your time on Facebook and reach dozens of surly posters, or you can call in with your issue and reach 3 surly hosts. Oh, and nearly 500,000 weekly listeners. The number is 1-855-450-3733. That's 855-450-FREE, as in freedom. Divvy's been a pretty good investment for Free Talk Live. Their ad campaign started in September 2019, and from mid-March to mid-July, the values soared by 10 times. It's not too late. Divvy's new wallet hasn't even released yet, and other things are happening that I can't even say on the radio. If you want to invest and potentially do well, go to divvyproject.org. I can tell you that FTL is deepening its partnership with the guys from divvyproject.org. Past performance is not an indication of future profit. divvyproject.org. DIVI project.org.
Excuse me, is this where I get a license to start a new business?
I wouldn't be hasty. You have to get a license to go out of business, too, you know.
Oh, well, look, I've invented this little anti-gravity machine, see?
Oh, is that why you're walking 2 inches above the floor?
Oh, yes, it's very comfortable. It saves on shoe leather.
Yeah, well, you have to fill out these forms and report to the Human Services Department of Manpower Orientation and register with the Fair Employment Practice Commission, the Wage and Hour Division of the Employment Standards Administration, the State Sales and Income Tax Division, the Internal Revenue Service, and the Social Security Administration of the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare, and, of course, OSHA.
OSHA? I thought that was a little town in Wisconsin.
You'll find out. Say, floating around like that could be dangerous. Have you checked with the Consumer Product Safety Commission?
Well, not yet.
Come to think of it, you actually are flying, aren't you? Look, you need to go over to the Federal Aviation Administration and the Transportation...
It's very hard to get anything done these days if you're in business, but free enterprise built this country. Think what could happen if we don't keep it free. A public service of this station and the Center for the Defense of Free Enterprise, Bellevue, Washington.
We just can't have people floating about unregulated, you know.
Bitcoin.com has launched a trading platform at local.bitcoin.com, allowing you to buy or sell Bitcoin Cash via dozens of payment methods like PayPal, Venmo, bank deposit, remittances, or meeting in person with cash. There are no ID requirements to sign up for and use the site, and all communications between buyers and sellers are encrypted. Finally, a global trading platform that respects your privacy. Visit local.bitcoin.com to get started trading Bitcoin Cash. local.bitcoin.com. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191. Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this, right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it, and once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world, so I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here, and I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com.
Help get LRN.FM into more ears. Visit promote.lrn.fm for a free bumper sticker, flyers, banners, graphics, and more. Promote.lrn.fm.
It's Free Talk Live. You can bring up anything you want. All you have to do, dial toll-free and join us. The number's 855-450-FREE, like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. Here in the studio tonight, it's Ian.
And Aria.
We're talking about Calexit. It is back in the news, and not just because they're talking about cryptocurrency and how that could somehow help with things like a universal basic income or so-called free health care and free education, and it seems pretty pie in the sky, but you know what? I still wish them the best. I still want them to succeed at seceding from the United States. I want them to be able to go, and I want them to go without violence. I want them to be able to leave and be left alone and not have like the U.S. military roll in tanks or drop a nuclear weapon on there. Because that's what, whenever you bring up secession or declaring independence, which is sort of like the nicer way to say it, people start to get scared, some of them. They think the federal government is going to murder them if they try to leave. Have you encountered
That's like
this
literally the definition of an abusive relationship. Did they get that?
Yeah. Well, and you know,
you have to leave those.
You have to, right? But I mean, I can understand why people are afraid of the federal government, right? Like they are a scary bunch, and they do have nuclear weapons, and as proven by
yes, and they've lost like 30-something of them.
Yeah, so I mean, but they've certainly proved that they are more than happy to use them on innocent people. So I can understand the fear, but yeah, you're absolutely right, Aria. I mean, these people, the fact that you are afraid of them is the reason why it's time to go. the fact that you are living in fear and that the idea of even leaving strikes fear into your heart should be what clues you in that this is a bad deal, that this is not something that benefits us. In fact, I was being interviewed today by the local a reporter from the local newspaper here in Keene. Have they contacted you yet for your sheriff's campaign?
Not yet.
Okay, that should be interesting.
I'm sure they will soon
when that happens. But I've got a primary to fight. You don't, ostensibly. So that's why they were interviewing me. And of course, I brought up secession at one point. That's one of my main.
You have a primary
issues.
opponent?
There's actually 4 Republicans running for 2 seats in the primary. So yeah, 2 of us are going to get knocked out.
Okay.
And
Best
there's
of luck.
3 3 libertarians in the race. So 3 out of 4.
Okay, nice. Okay, so at least one libertarian will win.
Well, they'll get through the primary.
Right.
I don't suspect any Republicans will actually win election in Keene, New Hampshire, which is kind of a lefty town here. So, but I brought it up.
I don't know, man. Judging from what people are saying about my campaign, I seem to be doing a pretty good job of breaking the 2-party system here. I mean, now we have Republicans saying, just vote for the Democrat.
Yeah, that happened today.
And I'm pretty sure, once I start throwing up the F the police signs, we'll have the Democrats going, no, just vote for the Republican. So who knows?
Yeah, it's going to be really entertaining. I really want you to get through the primary. And
I don't have a primary opponent. I don't see any reason I wouldn't.
I don't think that you will either, but I just want to be realistic.
I mean, there's no whispers that I've heard, no rumors about a potential write-in campaign.
Last-minute throw-in campaign. All right. I hope you're right.
And at this point, they have 4 days in which to do it, maybe 5?
No, we're just about 6 days out.
Okay.
So it'll be this coming Tuesday.
Okay. I work tonight, so I thought it was Thursday for some reason.
So you want to join the show, join us here. The number's 855-450 free like freedom. And what I did was I pulled up another story about Calexit and just sort of a more recent update on what's going on with them. It's from express.co.uk, where they interview one of the founders and the current president, Marcus Evans, who you mentioned in your story. He says the movement is to pull the western U.S. state away from the federal government, and it's gathering support from officials. Next month, state lawmakers have agreed to launch a formal petition which would pave the way for statewide vote on Californian independence. Again, misleading to say that it's getting support from officials. That just means some bureaucrat at the state of California has signed off on, okay, you can petition now. So that doesn't mean that they actually support the petition. Just to be clear.
And in all likelihood, they don't.
They probably don't. However, Evans makes some good points here. He says he hopes the campaign will be a success, and he told them about the parallels between Calexit and Brexit. He says, quote, I gotta say, when Brexit passed, there was a lot of talk about, it won't work. They'll come to their senses and Britain will be destroyed. He says it's years later and none of that happened. Britain's still doing
Brexit didn't happen.
That's true. There's still a Britain. The pound has not collapsed. He says that's incredibly inspiring to everyone here in California. And yes, we did check on Brexit and recent headlines here.
It's the same crap we've been hearing for 4 years.
Yeah, they're still talking about
There's
a deal.
a deadline. We've got to work out a deal. Okay, yes, you said this 4 years ago.
Yeah, it's so stupid. And we knew that was going to happen when that passed, that it was not going to be immediate, that it was going to be some lengthy time frame. And yeah, it's been 4 years.
I don't think it'll ever happen.
Well, I hope that the Yes California is faster to the punch here. The president pushing for Calexit alongside grassroots activist group Independent California explained there are similarities between policy frustrations in California now and what was being discussed in the UK prior to Brexit. This includes control over immigration and laws involving, for example, animal welfare and science. Evans said that California, quote, had to go around, unquote, the federal government on stem cell research and was also batted aside when it tried to implement laws improving animal welfare standards for caged hens. Another key similarity is on the subject of money. He says California is a donor state. We lose about $70 billion to $100 billion. He says some years it's only $30 billion to the federal government support states, meaning that, like New Hampshire, California pays more into the federal government than it gets out, right? So the people don't get anything. They just get screwed in any state. But some states have a certain windfall funding that they receive back from the federal government. Now, of course, that just goes into state coffers. So again, it doesn't actually help the people of those states. But that's still one of those points that, you want to make if you're advocating for secession is like,
it's like, hey, we're supporting these hillbillies in Mississippi to continue not letting their daughters have abortions after they impregnate them, kind of thing.
Or whatever. Yeah, whatever things the Californians don't want to support about what is happening in the rest of the country. And it also means that you'll get that money back. And that's one of the things I pointed out to the reporter today about, he was asking, well, what would the reason be? Why would people want to leave? And I'm like, well, wouldn't it be nice if you could actually just keep the money that normally the federal government takes and uses to destroy wedding parties and kill innocent people around the world? Wouldn't it be nice if, we could keep however many billions of dollars the people of New Hampshire send to the federal government every year and do what they want with it, help their kids get an education or fix the car or whatever? It would be huge. And then, so the same thing would be true there in California. Now, of course, the state government's going to take a huge chunk of that $100 billion once they know they can get their hands on it. Once they know it's back in the hands of the people of California. But in theory,
well, they're going to use Bitcoin to create a UBI, which obviously won't work. And I've been, letting this mull over in the back of my head. It'll never work because they can't inflate Bitcoin.
That's right. Well, I mean, they didn't say they were going to use Bitcoin.
No, but this is why they have to create their own cryptocurrency or their own token in order to do it. And then it's only going to be valued by the people of California. No one else is going to want that crap because they know you're going to inflate it to pay for all of your other nonsense. And it's just going to be another piece of paper on a wall somewhere.
It'll be fascinating to watch it happen. I hope we get to find out. I really want the socialists, whether it be California or Vermont. I want there to, because there's a Vermont secessionist movement as well, and they're pretty lefty state there. I do want to see them, have success at this. I want them to be able to leave so they can be more socialist and show the world again the failure of socialism and maybe attract some of the socialists there. So leave New Hampshire.
As long as they give, the non-socialists the opportunity to leave.
Right.
Peacefully without rounding them up and executing them or putting them in work camps or whatever.
They should leave as soon as possible. Whoever those people are, if you are a person in California and you care about freedom, and I don't mean like conservative types because you guys don't, belong in New Hampshire either. But if you care about freedom, like you actually believe in liberty on all the issues, then you need to get out of California and you need to get to New Hampshire. It's just the best. It's the best option. And it is the one we've seen actually having some success. So go ahead, get out now. But if you're going to stay there, go ahead and sign the petition for Calexit. Even though you may not be a socialist and you may not like what Calexit becomes down the line, just go ahead and help them out. Get a few petition signatures for them. Get that thing on the ballot. Let's find out what the Californians want. Because if the Californians want to leave, they should be free to leave.
Agreed.
Same thing with us. More coming up here. This is Free Talk Live.
Do the letters IRS give you anxiety? I'm Dan Pilla. I've defended people from the IRS for more than 40 years. My book, How to Get Tax Amnesty, created the tax resolution industry and is responsible for helping hundreds of thousands of people. It can help you too. If you're a non-filer or facing IRS enforcement right now, your case is unique. You need real help, not cookie-cutter advice. My clients get my personal attention. Buy my book at danpilla.com and get a free consultation directly with me. That's danpilla.com. Let's start solving your tax problem right now.
Are you ready for what's next? It's likely coming. More food shortages, power outages, grocery stores closed, social unrest. Ask yourself, do you have enough food and supplies on hand to last at least 30 days? Most Americans do not, but you can. Avoid the panic of the last-minute rush. Order your 4-week supply of emergency food today from mypatriotsupply.com. Starvation or dependency on the government are your only alternatives. Avoid those and the pain of being unprepared. Go to mypatriotsupply.com right now. Build your emergency food supply with meals that last up to 25 years in storage, shipped discreetly to your door. Folks that know what's coming are using today to prepare. There's time for you to do the same. That's mypatriotsupply.com, the original Patriot Preparedness Company. mypatriotsupply.com.
With a MechTech carbine conversion unit, you can turn an XD family Glock or 1911 handgun into a carbine rifle in seconds and have it shipped right to your door, no FFL required. Now, MechTech is excited to announce our pistol carbine conversion unit. More compact with a 12-inch barrel and an arm brace, proving once again that MechTech is the world's most versatile handgun accessory. For a limited time, go to handgunconversions.com. That's handgunconversions.com and use coupon code RADIO to receive $35 off any carbine purchase.
LRN.FM's free-to-air satellite feeds blanket most of 2 continents. It was my goal to put our channel there so people without internet could receive our programs and feed pirate radio stations. As our contract with our satellite provider is coming up for another 3-year renewal, I have to consider calling it quits. It's rare that we get feedback or support from our satellite users. We started a fundraiser a few years ago, and though there are a bunch of great contributors to it, as of this recording, it covers 15% of our monthly satellite costs. Please email lrn@lrn.fm and tell me how you use the satellite feed. Better yet, chip in at fund.lrn.fm. The costs aren't the issue. We can afford them, but why continue something not valued by the market? Want to help? You can join our satellite fundraiser for just $2 a month at fund.lrn.fm. If we raise enough to keep both channels on the air, awesome. If we raise more, I'll add more channels. If not, we can shut them down and go internet only. It's up to you. Thank you for your support. Fund.lrn.fm. Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get 1 free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm.
I'm crazy about My Magic Mud. This is the most important oral care product created this millennium, and I'm not kidding. We all have different opinions on politics and issues, but we all have mouths. And I want yours to be as clean as possible, with teeth as bright as they were meant to be. I will never be without My Magic Mud. It's a little surprising, but man, does it work. If you only listen to one thing I say ever, go to mymagicmud.com and get 20% off with code FTL. mymagicmud.com, code FTL.
Some of our live shows are streamed in HD on Twitch. Please follow and share at twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm.
Hey, it's Free Talk Live. You can join us here. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE, like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. We're talking about the idea of Calexit, California exiting the United States. And it can't happen soon enough. It needs to happen like this year. But unfortunately, it's probably going to be another few years before they can get this petition on the ballot in California and take the temperature, basically, of the Californian people. Because I don't know the way this petition is written, but the ones that they'd previously tried in the past, if I recall correctly, they didn't have like any teeth in them. Yeah. It was like, should California leave? It wasn't like, by answering yes to this question, you're obligating the California legislature to pass some sort of bill. That's my recollection of this, but if you've been following it closer and you want to weigh in, please join us here. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. Now, Bitcoin.com, place to go to learn about cryptocurrency. Maybe you're hearing about it for the first time, or you're taking it seriously for the first time, or you're ready to take it seriously. Get over to Bitcoin.com. They will educate you. There's a getting started area where you can learn about Bitcoin, BTC, which is the original one, and then there's Bitcoin Cash. There might be competing Bitcoin Caches coming soon, so things might get a little weird for Bitcoin Cash in the next couple of months. But that's something I'm sure we'll talk further about as the deadline for that gets closer. That's going to be the next. So that's going to be the next big thing in November. There's the election, and then there's going to be the potential Bitcoin Cash schism right after that, I think, or around the same time. Go to Bitcoin.com, get started on your journey into the world of cryptocurrency and learn the basics. If you're not new to it, then just go to their news site. They've got lots of headlines, information there, news.bitcoin.com. So we've been talking about Calexit, and there's an interview here with The Express over in the UK. They interviewed one of the top guys over there, the president of Yes California, a.k.a. Calexit. His name is Marcus Ruiz-Evans. And he said that there's a big problem where California taxpayers are paying about $70 billion to $100 billion in some years that doesn't come back into California. It's money that just gets washed away by the federal government into whichever other state governments are the recipient states. A lot of southern states, for instance, I think are some of the recipient states, and California is one of these donor states. So by seceding, they keep more of their economic weight in California. And the same thing's true of any state that manages to secede. Now, all of a sudden, not only do you save the money directly that you would pay in income taxes, because there's no more income tax, at least not federal income tax. Now, some states have their own, so that's your
I'm sure
problem.
California won't get rid of theirs.
Oh, I'm sure you're right about that. But still, it's money that's being paid to the federal government that you would get to keep. Well, also, there's the additional bonus that there's no federal regulations anymore. So now, whatever the crappy regulations are that are driving people out of business and preventing new people from opening businesses and regulating business out of the United States, right, like moving manufacturing over to Asia or wherever, these are all regulations that have displaced the marketplace. Well, seceding, they're gone.
Not for California.
No, not for California, because they'll have their own state regulations.
But for like New Hampshire? Yeah.
But even in California, it's one fewer layer of regulations. Now you only got to deal with the state bureaucrats.
I'm sure that the state bureaucrats are far more heavy-handed, though, than the federal government.
In California, that may or may not be true. In New Hampshire, they are definitely not as heavy-handed here. But my point being, if you've got to deal with one layer of bureaucrats, that's better than two layers or three layers or whatever. So you take away that federal government layer, you save money on regulations, because again, the markets can regulate themselves through voluntary means, and you save money on taxes. I mean, that's a tremendous economic boost. Now again, California is going to tax them even more, and they're going to put their socialism into place, so their economy is going to continue spiraling down the drain. But at the very least, the federal government won't be hindering or helping, right, in that case. So they say in 2016, we lost $30 billion subsidizing America, talking about taxpayers in California. The California Legislative Analysis Office surmised we could house all the homeless in San Francisco for about $25 billion. Oh my God, can you imagine how many homeless do they have? $25 billion? Is this for a year?
I'm sure they have a lot.
Housing the homeless?
Well, and I'm not sure they have any desire whatsoever to actually house the homeless. They throw out these sorts of numbers as a feel-good attempt to be like, hey, this is what we should do. This is what we could do. But if they were in that position, is that what they would do? I'm willing to bet it's not.
Good question. When you actually have the $25 billion in your hands, you mean? Yeah.
Are they going to actually house all the homeless people in San Diego? Or are they going to install more bumps along the underpass so that the homeless people can't sleep there, Which one of these two things are they most likely to do?
Well, and which of the interpretations here is correct? So when he says the office surmised that we could house all of the homeless in San Francisco for about $25 billion, I presume that means all of the homeless who live now in San Francisco, not all of California's homeless, put them all in San Francisco. I presume it's the former.
I hope so.
But if so, we should be able to get an estimate of how many homeless people are in San Francisco and then find out what $25 billion means per homeless person. Because I suspect that is going to be a lot of money.
Yeah, now, it's like how expensive is rent there,
Well, I mean, it's San Francisco, so the rent there is absolutely terrifying. There was a story recently that I think it was Pinterest. The website Pinterest, they were about to get into a lease on a building, or they were in a lease. They were actually in a lease, and they broke the lease because now work at home's a thing, and they don't actually need the offices anymore that they were going to spend hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars on this fancy office park or whatever. They paid $90 million, I think it was $89.5 million as the lease breaking fee to be able to walk away from this lease. This was San Francisco where this happened. So they had like tip-top corporate headquarters kind of, building that they were getting ready to move into right before COVID. And now it's like, nope, we're done. Now we're going to pay the $90 million and walk away from this deal.
Well, according to the internet, there are 9,000 homeless people in San Francisco.
No way.
Yeah, the exact number is 9,784.
That's amazing. Okay. So
you expected more?
I mean, San Francisco is a big city. I've never really studied homeless, how many homeless people there are per 100 or 100,000 people in any given city. But that seems like a low number. But then again, I
and they said 25 billion.
They said 25 billion for apparently 9,000. Maybe they are talking about the entirety of California.
Yeah, because that comes out to $2,774,000 per person per year.
Okay. So yeah, they really are talking about moving the homeless, which according to Google here, 151,000 and change homeless people in all of California is the estimate.
How many? 151,000?
Yeah, 151,000. But even that into 25 billion is still going to be pretty noteworthy, I think.
It's 165,000 per person. Yeah, for a year.
Wow. That's like,
I don't know, what was that, like?
That gives them their own shack in San Francisco.
Those
you
lucky
can get
devils.
a shack for $160,000. That's about how bad the real estate market is there. Although real estate may be getting cheap in places like San Francisco and New York City, places where there's a large exodus. There's a large number of people who are like, screw this. Now I can work from home. All right, I'm out of here. I didn't want to be here in the first place in these, hellaciously expensive cities, especially San Francisco or Seattle or whatever. So there's a large amount of flight from these urbanized areas. So it may finally be that the prices of not only, certainly commercial property is going to go down when you've got companies like Pinterest walking away and throwing $90 million down a hole just so they can exit a lease before they take over a building. You're going to see that happening in more places where more businesses are breaking their lease, paying whatever the fee is to break the lease and just walking away. Of course, a lot of leases you got to pay all the way through the end of the lease, so there's no point in breaking it. But this is happening in a lot of places where businesses that had all their company employees come to the same place every day, they don't do that anymore.
Right.
And a lot of them are saying they're going to continue doing work from home because there are some tremendous savings in cost. And once you get used to working from home, why would you want to go back to the office? I mean, I understand that, there's some social aspect to being in the office, but
Sure.
go out and get a hobby or join the knitting club or the computer club or whatever it is that people do to socialize. Because I mean, a lot of these folks drive in a half hour, 45 minutes, an hour, maybe more, one way to go to work. In these big cities.
But I have to ask these people, when you come to these rural areas, to escape the hellish nightmare that has been created in these big cities, don't do the same thing here.
Oh, they will.
That happened there.
They will. 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. We got more on the way. You can talk about secession, Calexit, or Brexit, or whatever's on your mind. You can join us on the radio. This is Free Talk Live. Hour 2 is next.
Remember when you first heard about Bitcoin? How long did it take you to realize this little project would soon change the world? Do you kind of wish you had gotten involved sooner? Well, now is your chance to be a part of the next revolution in money. Intercoin is working to finally make crypto go mainstream. It's designed to be scalable enough to support everyday payments and even elections without the state. Bitcoin was originally supposed to be a peer-to-peer cash system, the way we would all pay one another without having to trust any third party. But instead, over time, it mostly became a store of value. That's because every 10 minutes, the Bitcoin network must put all transactions into a block, and that block can only hold so much. If crypto is to become mainstream, for people to use it for everyday payments, we need a new architecture, one that is as secure as Bitcoin while being far more scalable. Check out intercoin.org to find out more and maybe pick up some of those coins for yourself.
There are basically two types of advertising: direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
So you've heard all 3 hours of the latest episode of Free Talk Live, and you're still hungry for liberty-oriented audio content? Did you know that we have another 24/7 audio stream at LRN.FM? The Liberty Radio Network airs the latest episodes of some of the best liberty-oriented podcasts on the internet around the clock. In addition to recorded content, you'll also hear live shows like Free Talk Live, originating from our Keene, New Hampshire studio. So listen anytime at LRN.FM. That's LRN.FM.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next, after the news, here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Hitting the road again. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. President Trump making a quick trip this afternoon to honor World War II veterans.
President Trump traveling to the battleground state of North Carolina on the 75th anniversary of the end of World War II, stressing the critical role the Tar Heel state played in America's victory.
Nearly 2 million American servicemen trained for combat in North Carolina, more than any other state.
North Carolina will also likely play a critical role in the 2020 election. This was the president's 12th visit to North Carolina. Absentee ballots for the November election go out this Friday. In Washington, John Decker, Fox News.
Democratic nominee Joe Biden in Wilmington, Delaware, continuing to hammer the president's response to the pandemic.
President Trump may not think this is a national emergency, but I think going back to school for millions of children and the impacts on their families and the community is a national emergency. I believe that's what it is.
Biden said the president's failed response in March is the reason many children are attending school remotely this fall. The Biden campaign has raised at least $360 million for his election effort last month. That's according to a person who spoke with the Associated Press. President of the National Guard as the reason for the quelling of violence in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Acting Homeland Security Secretary Chad Wolf agrees.
The National Guard, they know how to do this. They know the crowd control techniques. They know their city, their state, and to be able to operate there. So we've seen it work in a number of cases. You saw it in Minneapolis as well.
The president has called on the governor of Oregon to allow federal help to get a handle on the protests in Portland, which in some cases have become violent. On Wall Street, the Dow added 454 points, the NASDAQ plus 116. America is listening to Fox News.
For over 20 years, millions of customers have trusted Blinds.com to update their homes. Because Blinds.com makes it easy to get custom blinds that'll give your windows a high-end look without the high-end price. Whether you like to DIY, need design help, or prefer measure and install services, they do it all with easy online ordering and free shipping right to your door. If you're unsure, know that Blinds.com has over 30,000 5-star customer reviews, and they guarantee the perfect fit for your windows, whether you do it yourself or have them measure and install everything for you.
Right now, shop Blinds.com's Labor Day savings event right from home with easy online ordering and free shipping right to your door. You'll save up to 40% on everything through September 8th. Interior blinds, shades, shutters, even outdoor shades. Plus, pay over 24 months at 0% APR on qualifying purchases with PayPal Credit Easy payments through 9/17/2020.
As of March 1st, 2020, new PayPal credit accounts have a variable purchase APR of 25.49% that will vary with the market based on the prime rate. Minimum interest charge is $2, subject to credit approval. Visit Blinds.com/PayPal. Other rules and restrictions may apply.
More people who work in the travel industry being furloughed.
The travel industry is reeling from a pandemic-driven slump in passenger demand in the skies and also on the rails. United Airlines says that it's slashing over 16,000 jobs when federal aid runs out this fall. The cuts are involuntary furloughs, meaning workers can be called back if demand resumes. Overall, U.S. airlines have already shed around 50,000 jobs this year through the end of June. And the job cuts don't stop with the airline industry. The coronavirus is also affecting U.S. passenger railroad Amtrak, which will furlough more than 2,000 workers beginning next month. Amtrak says that travel demand ridership and revenue levels are down 95% year over year since the pandemic began. Hillary Barsky, Fox News.
New studies confirm multiple types of steroids improve survival rates for people severely ill with COVID-19. An analysis of pooled results from 7 studies found steroids reduced the risk of death in the first month by about a third compared to placebo treatment or usual care alone in seriously ill patients. The study published in the Journal of the American Medical Association. The Trump administration canceling some remaining orders for ventilators, saying the stockpile is full.
The Health and Human Services Department says 120,000 ventilators are available for state and local officials.
An agency spokesperson says terminating contracts that are no longer needed will save taxpayers millions of dollars. Democrats claim the cancellations show the White House overspent in its quest to fulfill President Trump's pledge to make the nation the king of ventilators. Rachel Sutherland, Fox News.
75th anniversary of the end of World War II is today, though commemorations were mostly virtual. Some of the men who served on board the U.S. ship the Missouri in Tokyo Bay, where the Japanese surrendered, were supposed to travel to Hawaii to mark the event, but the veterans who attended were mostly local due to the pandemic. I'm Lisa Lacera. This is Fox News.
If you're the parent of a man-child, you know how frustrating it can sometimes be. The piercing sound of his video games waking you up at 2 in the morning. His insatiable hunger and inability to cook anything for himself. The messes he makes. The stress can be overwhelming.
Something will set them off, such as their man-child will tell them that they don't know how to tie a tie even though they're almost 30. They'll start shaking them and yelling and saying, "What the hell is wrong with you? Why don't you get a real job instead of working part-time at a board game store?"
The results of shaken man-child syndrome are devastating. Trauma caused by the brain colliding with the inside of the man-child's skull can lead to cognitive disabilities, making it even more unlikely he'll finally marry the girl he's been having a long-distance online relationship with for 6 years, or it can even lead to death.
He's not spilling cereal all over the couch or leaving his beard clippings in the bathroom sink intentionally. He truly does not know what he's doing.
For the Lab Report, I'm Stuart Adams.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
Free Talk Live. Dial in, toll free, bring up anything you want. Our number here, 855-450, free like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. Calexit is back in the news, and they're in the news for a couple of reasons. One, they apparently have qualified to do a petition drive in California. They need over 620,000 signatures in order to get on the ballot. Now, I'm not sure what exactly they are trying to get on the ballot. Hopefully, it's a strong question of should we leave, or somehow order these politicians to begin the process of leaving the United States.
Isn't it the case there that the California government writes the petitions? Didn't they rewrite the Shroom petition?
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know enough about how bureaucratic and frustrating the petitioning process is there. I imagine it is not easy. If you find out more, let us know. Toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. So there's an interview here with one of the founders, the co-founders. One of them has left California and moved to Russia, but the other one, Marcus Evans, is still on the ground there in California, and he's trying to advocate for secession, trying to advocate for declaring independence from the United States. And they're comparing it a little bit here to Brexit, pointing out that there are some differences between Brexit and Calexit, where Evans notes California would like a more relaxed approach to immigration than what the U.S. federal government allows. He said, quote, "We lose billions of dollars because California is internationally connected and America isn't. Because the middle of America is racist," he says, "and does not like immigrants or the foreign world, and California literally depends on them." Brexit was about...
Yeah, but that won't be true once you turn this into a socialist hellhole. No one will want to immigrate there.
That's true. And maybe they'll end up figuring that out, but it's going to have to go deeper down the hellhole before they...
I welcome them to take the ride if they can get a bunch of people voluntarily to ride this out and see where it goes. But I badly want to warn them how bad this is going to be.
Well, the socialists won't listen to you because they believe that
of
all
course
the
they'll
other
listen to me. I'm a tranny.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, they might take you a little more seriously, but they'll always say that those other socialist countries just did it wrong.
Yeah, they will. That's what they always say.
We will do it right in California.
And when it fails, it wasn't really socialism.
Right. They just elected the wrong guy. If they'd only elected Marcus or whoever, right? Whoever the king man is that didn't succeed for them, like Venezuela, it didn't work out for them either. But everybody's got their excuses. And when you looked at Venezuela's opposition, it's full of socialists. So when you look at like the status quo and who's challenging it, it's socialists. The Juan Guaido guy that was sort of being touted about for a while by the U.S. government. He was like the U.S. government's man in Venezuela.
Right.
Maybe the CIA's man or whatever. He's a socialist from the brief research we were able to do into him, from as far away as we are. Now, he's a socialist who's more friendly to the Trump administration or the United States federal government, but nonetheless, he's still a socialist. He may be better on some issues, like he may support dollarization stronger than Maduro, the man who's currently in charge, even though Maduro himself has sort of quietly allowed for the dollarization of Venezuela because it's the only thing keeping him in place.
Right. I mean, hasn't Venezuela done this repeatedly where they would like wreck the token and then they allowed dollars and then they didn't and then
so Zimbabwe kind of did that. And
I thought it was Venezuela for whatever reason.
Venezuela has wrecked its currency, continues to wreck. I mean, it's not to say that they wrecked it and then went back or whatever. They've continued to wreck the bolivar to the point where they've
How many zeros have they knocked off of it at this point?
At least 11 that I can think of over the last 2 decades. So it is a just absolute mess there. And that's what will happen to California eventually. But that's the point. They won't believe that. They're going to have to go through it. So get out now while you still can if you care about freedom. But they say that...
Well, I mean, if you care about having, things like toilet paper,
running water,
food, electricity,
medicine,
free healthcare, it sounds good until there are no doctors and no medicine.
Yeah, there's nothing left. It's free. Brexit, they say, was about, do we want Europeans telling us who we can have trade deals with and deciding who gets to immigrate in our country and deciding all these policies for us? California's asking the same question. He says, we just have a somewhat different opinion on immigration, but we have a hugely similar opinion on trade. He says that we're worried this big cluster doesn't get us and is going to hold us back, and we think, frankly, we'd do better on our own. And I think that's true for all of us. I think we would do better on our own here in New Hampshire.
Without a doubt.
I think California, well, they should have the freedom to prove it and try their own thing. And he says the current movement has roots dating back to 2014 when Barack Obama was the U.S. president. And I think that's a really important point. And in fact, if you go to the Yes California website, on the About Us page, it does, one of the first things that it points out is we were here before Trump. So to their credit, it wasn't like they were
Well, they were here before Trump became president. I mean, he was campaigning in 2015 for the GOP primary.
Yeah, but no one was acting based on the idea that Trump was going to get elected at that point.
Well, the people who knew what was going on in the United States were.
I don't know. What do you mean by that? You thought Trump had a chance?
I knew he was going to get it.
Really?
I predicted it in November of 2014.
Well, I mean, a lot of people didn't predict that. A lot of people didn't see Trump possibly winning the primary.
I said he was going to win. He was going to go against Hillary, and he was going to beat Hillary.
And you were right.
I said it openly on Quora in November of 2015 or 14.
Good for you. There's plenty of people who were not saying that.
I know it was all a joke, right?
Yeah, and
that's why he
won. And it was amazing. But regardless, the point is, it was Obama's presidency, what they did when they created Calexit. They didn't cite Trump as their reason for creating Calexit. That's to their credit, because to create a secessionist movement of leftists during a time when there's ostensibly a leftist in the presidency would seem to be contrary to what you would expect. And it is contrary to what you would expect. And so they deserve credit for having the principle to be in favor of secession even when their guy is in office, to value the idea.
Well, Barack Obama wasn't a leftist. He was center-right at best.
Well, whatever you want to say, a lot of the people on the left were excited about getting him elected, right? Like they didn't want who the hell was it? Romney in 2012, or McCain, I think it was in 2008. So like they still celebrated, right, the idea of we got a black president, and but these guys are principled enough to say we want to secede regardless of who's in office, and that's what you got to say. You've got to keep that principle of we think we will be better off even if it's our party who's in charge in D.C. We don't want to be associated with the rest of the United States. We've got the economic strength. We can do this. So kudos to them. He said Californians love Obama, but added there were still sentiments of frustration toward the way the federal government treated the state. These sentiments became even more pronounced when Donald Trump became president in 2016. And I suspect they increased their level of support when that happened.
I'm sure.
Evans explained such issues surrounding his presidency included deportation of undocumented migrants, led to concern in the state. More recent issues, including the federal government's handling of COVID-19 and the racial unrest following the killing of George Floyd, brought the situation to a head. He said, quote, "We noticed a giant uptick in Calexit support when Governor Gavin Newsom announced the pact where he was going to ignore federal protocols on COVID-19, so things got real big," he said. And by ignore, I presume that means to go even further in California than what the federal protocols were requiring and have even more of a crackdown. I presume that's what that means.
Probably.
Because California is one of the worst places. I'm pretty sure San Francisco is still on lockdown even now. But if you're there and you want to comment, you're welcome to join us here. Our number is 855-450-FREE. Quote, "There was the George Floyd death and 20 cities on fire, and that was it. People saw the government totally fail on basic providence for its public. And then they saw America totally fail on race issues going back to MLK, and they saw cities on fire. And they just go, you know what? I don't know what's going on. I love America, but this is about life and death. We're going to secede, or we're not going to have a functional government."
Good for them.
Yeah, they want to leave because they want better government. They think they can make it work better. And they're wrong, but
sure,
they should be free to find out, and we should be free of them as well. 855-450-FREE. You know, you should be free to do business with people in California, but I don't want to be told what to do by those folks. They're crazy out there. 855-450-FREE. You can join us here. This is Free Talk Live.
Did you know you can support freedom of speech just by visiting shop.freetalklive.com? You'll see links to Walmart, Love Java, Newegg, and more. Every day, Free Talk Live is at the forefront of the liberty movement as the biggest liberty-oriented talk show in the world, giving you a platform to be heard on any topic. Get listener-only specials without doing anything other than an extra click. Visit shop.freetalklive.com. Use the links and buy what you'd be buying anyway. Take action now. Save and support freedom. Visit shop.freetalklive.com. It's shop.freetalklive.com. Divvy's been a pretty good investment for Free Talk Live. Their ad campaign started in September 2019, and from mid-March to mid-July, the values soared by 10 times. It's not too late. Divvy's new wallet hasn't even released yet, and other things are happening that I can't even say on the radio. If you want to invest and potentially do well, go to divvyproject.org. I can tell you that FTL is deepening its partnership with the guys from divvyproject.org. Past performance is not an indication of future profit. divvyproject.org. DIVI project.org.
Got shaving irritation? Shave Secret shaving oil can help stop it. Shave Secret doesn't cost much and is an all-American product. My name is Chuck Howard, and I developed Shave Secret and pioneered its use starting back in 1991. Ingrown hairs drove me nuts for years. Shaving oil changed all that. Why put up with ingrown hairs, bumps, red rash, nicks, and cuts? Shave Secret provides men and women with what we believe is the best shave ever. Our proprietary blend of 100% natural base and essential oils, plus a hint of menthol, was designed to help eliminate shaving irritations like ingrown hairs, bumps, red rash, nicks, and cuts. We'll lose those shaving irritations. Available at Super Walmart, H-E-B, Wegmans, Giant Eagle, Discount Drug, Navy and Marine Exchanges, Amazon, and ShaveSecret.com. Use the code FTL for Free Talk Live and get a discount. Shave Secret, the best shave ever.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market.
Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
Love what we do? Please help support our international satellite channels at patreon.lrn.fm. That's patreon.lrn.fm.
It's Free Talk Live. You can bring up anything you want. Right here, the toll-free number is 855-450-FREE like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. We have the Discord call-in lines over at discord.lrn.fm. And you can, bring up whatever you want. We've been talking about Calexit, the idea of California leaving the United States. Now, Aria, you say you don't want them to be first.
I do not want them to be first. I want New Hampshire to be first because we would be successful, right? If California secedes and they fail catastrophically, that's going to be put forward by the American government as a reason not to secede. Well, look what happens when you don't have us. You have total secession. You can't have toilet paper anymore.
They're probably not going to fail the first year out. I mean, it's going to take some time. I mean, Venezuela took some time to go down the drain.
Did it?
Yeah. I mean, definitely. It's worse off today than it was a decade ago.
But it was terrible a decade ago, too.
It was bad. Yeah, I mean, it was definitely bad. But it got real bad in this decade. So it's sort of spiraled down faster and faster. But it starts slow. They're not going to get away with a 90% tax bracket the first day.
Okay, that's true.
Yeah.
Not even if it's to pay for universal health care? And universal education.
But I think that by the time, if California leaves, you're going to see a domino effect. Whoever it is that goes first is going to, I think, set off a domino effect of Me Too states. Like, oh, they can leave? Okay, well, let's leave, right? Because there's a lot of people who don't want to don't want to even broach the subject of secession because they believe that it's impossible. That Barack Obama.
Well, look what happened the last time someone tried.
That's what Barack Obama said too.
Yes, it was in his petition responses.
Correct. It was 2012 after the election. The Texas petition to secede on the WhiteHouse.gov website had reached over 100,000 signatures, and the official response from the White House was, "We settled that in the Civil War."
It was worse than that. He said the founders of this country decided that the Union should be perpetual. He admitted to the entire world that we are ruled by dead people, that dead people tell us what to do and how we can govern ourselves.
It's crazy.
The President of the United States said that. No one went, wait a minute, did he just say that these people who have been dead for 200 years have more right to govern us and tell us what type of government we're going to have than we do ourselves? I'm pretty sure they would have shot Barack Obama for saying that.
Well, not only that, but he also basically said he was going to make you dead if you tried it again.
I'd have to reread it again.
Or whatever. I mean, that was the suggestion. Saying that this was settled in the Civil War means that if you try this again, we're going to kill you. That's what that means. You read between the lines on that. So in California right now, the folks over at Yes California, a.k.a. Calexit, they've got to get over 620,000 petition signatures, and apparently they only have 5 months to do it. But then if those signatures, if they are gathered, they will go into the polls and they'll vote on whether or not they want to be independent.
I don't know if it would lead to another civil war this time, though, especially if it was just one state. One state leaving seems like it's significantly less of a warlike issue than, half of the states leaving or however many there were.
I don't think they'll do it. I don't think that the federal government, I mean, as violent and stupid as they can be, I don't think that they're going to invade one of their own states when they decide to leave. I hope that they don't.
I don't think they would for one. But if there were 30, I think they would.
That would be even more difficult for them to do. I mean, if it's just one state, that's a lot. It's less geographic area that you have to invade and take or attack. But if it's 30 of them,
it didn't stop them in the 19th century.
Well, they could do it, but it will look really bad, right? Like now we've got the instantaneous media. We have everybody's got a camera in
Trump
their
would just
pocket.
say, no, that's fake news. That's not really happening. It's fake news. And everyone would buy it. We're not actually shooting the people of California. That's fake news.
If just 25% of the goal is met, the state government will have to hold a public hearing on the matter, meaning 25% of the signatures, which, not that that'll do anything, but Evans hopes that will bring media attention, which will bring the matter of Californian independence to the world stage. And if it happens, other states may follow, Evans said. Quote, the Calexit movement has already had dialogue with the leaders of Alaska independence, Hawaii sovereignty, Cascadia, which is Oregon and Washington, secession, and have recently talked with the secessionists in Portland. Quote, from what we've been told, they all watch closely what happens in California, and each one of them has said that if California goes, it will likely set the stage for other West Coast states to leave if they want to. And I think he's absolutely right about that.
I hope it happens.
And I think it's true here as well that any state that is able to secede without a violent invasion by the federal government will be a major signal that it is time to walk away from this terrible arrangement that will long overstayed its welcome, and it's time to go again. Now, Aria, if you want to see New Hampshire beat California to the punch on this, we got a lot of catching up to do. I mean, because Calexit gets news articles.
How long have we been talking about secession, though?
Half a decade at least, if not longer. I mean, I don't know when we first started talking about it heavily here, but it's within the last decade, I would say.
He's got a good point. I mean, we're secessionists, and we're watching what happens in Calexit very closely.
Yeah. Well, that's because we can watch it because people are talking about it, because there's a movement behind Calexit. They have people who are volunteers who are going out.
The Free Staters came here and became Republicans or Democrats.
They did. What's your point?
They need to go back to California and Texas.
Wait, you think the Free Staters should go back to California? Why?
If they became Republicans and Democrats, and I don't mean they signed up.
You're a Republican.
I'm not a Republican. And that's the point I was about to make.
You're running for sheriff as a Republican.
I don't mean the ones who, joined a political party in order to have influence in the minds of people in order to get press. That's not who I mean. I mean the ones who came over here as libertarians and got pulled to the actual right or to the actual left.
Oh. I don't think there are that many of those. I don't think. I mean, I know there are some examples of some people who have gone like total lefty or total righty, but they're few and far between.
Okay.
I think you see more people just leaving rather than changing their political viewpoint. But again, we got to get caught up. So that's one of the reasons why I've been doing secessionist outreach at both Black Lives Matter events and the Reopen New Hampshire events. So I'm trying to do outreach to both the left and the right on this. Like, I'm the same way. I don't care who's in office. I'm going to pitch secession. Now, when Trump was elected, there was like an anti-Trump rally that happened out here in Keene, and I went out to it with secession flyers, knowing that it would be the lefties that were upset.
Sure. I mean, you got to capitalize on it, right?
Yeah. So that's what I was doing, and the younger people, I would say, were a little more open-minded to it. And there was like one older guy out there who was really against the idea. Like, he wanted to fight back in D.C. and take back D.C. And that's ultimately going to be a mindset that you have to work against, because there's this love for America that both the left and the right have. And I think it's also a love for the idea of controlling their neighbor, like that at some level they really, really want to be able to tell other people what to do, and especially that those bad Republicans or those bad Democrats who've opposed them for so long, we're going to take power back and we're going to show them, we're going to implement whatever.
I mean, just the idea of fighting back to take over D.C. again, that's why would you want to put in the effort to take over this horrible cesspool?
They do, and I suspect
there's an easier solution here. Just say, hey,
away.
We're done with you. We're doing our own thing now. Thanks.
Yeah. So
it was a good run, but we're done.
That's something we need to start talking about, and so that's why I'm using my tiny little campaign for state rep here. Whatever small amount of media I get, I'm bringing up secession. People need to talk about it. We need to talk about it so often that people can start to believe it. That's really ultimately what needs to change. People need to believe in the idea of secession. There's more coming up. It's Free Talk Live.
Remember when you first heard about Bitcoin? How long did it take you to realize this little project would soon change the world? Do you kind of wish you had gotten involved sooner? Well, now's your chance to be part of the next revolution in money. Intercoin is working to finally make crypto go mainstream. It's designed to be scalable enough to support everyday payments and even elections without the state. Bitcoin was originally supposed to be a peer-to-peer cash system, the way we would all pay one another without having to trust any third party. But instead, over time, it mostly became a store of value. That's because every 10 minutes, the Bitcoin network must put all transactions into a block, and that block can only hold so much. If crypto is to become mainstream, for everyone to use it in everyday payments, we need a new architecture, one that's as secure as Bitcoin while being far more scalable. Check out intercoin.org to find out more, and maybe pick up some of those coins for yourself.
Do you know the difference between erudite and pedantic? If you do, you're probably pedantic. But seriously, a surprising number of erudite people mispronounce erudite, which has 3 syllables, not 4. Say erudite, not erudite. Because you are judged by how you speak, you want to avoid common misstatements, especially if you're a job seeker. For instance, do you know the difference between imply and infer? Only a speaker can imply. Only a listener can infer. And when you say you'll be out of pocket, do you mean out of touch? Out of pocket means you're on your own dime, not yet reimbursed. And if anyone ever asks, why do you always answer a question with a question? You should reply, do I do that? Just kidding. From survivalspeech.com, I'm Holland Cook.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it! You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
LRN.FM now has a Discord. Discord is a free text and voice chat platform, and we now have our own server with a bunch of channels at discord.lrn.fm. You can join other listeners as they chat about various things during our live shows, or anytime, day or night. Discord software is available cross-platform, so you can have it on whatever device you want and take your chats anywhere. Join our Discord at discord.lrn.fm. That's discord.lrn.fm.
Free Talk Live.
The idea that politicians are leaders. Check your premises on that one.
Cutting proof.
Really? Would you really follow Barack Obama or George Bush? Would you really follow their every command? Would you follow their suggestions? Do you believe that politicians are somehow more knowledgeable than you are? That politicians are of a special group of people? They're a special little critter that for some reason is more enlightened or educated? Constantly you can hear talking heads refer to the authorities or our leaders in Washington, and it's just patently absurd. I mean, these people are failures at life. That's why they became politicians.
Right. I mean, there's so many of them are attorneys. The good attorneys make a whole bunch of money and retire with yachts. The unsuccessful ones go into politics.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM. Now you can follow LRN.FM on the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm.
This is Free Talk Live. You can bring up anything you want here, and the toll-free number for you is 855-450, free like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. Tonight, it's Ian.
Aria.
And you can bring up whatever you want. That's the point of the show. We're going to go back to your phone calls and your thoughts, but I do want to say thanks to the folks over at Divvy for teaming up with Free Talk Live, I think just about a year ago. And from mid-March to mid-July of this year, Divvy has increased in value, or had increased in value, by over 10 times. Now, we don't know what's going to happen in the future, but obviously the folks behind Divvy would like for its price to continue to go up. And we can't make predictions here at Free Talk Live, but we're certainly happy so far with Divvy. You can go to divvyproject.org and begin earning Divvy by starting a masternode, which is super easy to do with Divvy. They were the first one-click masternodes. And you can stake Divvy. There's even a lottery for people who stake the coin as well. Go learn more at divvyproject.org, D-I-V-I project.org. We're going to go back to your calls and thoughts. And then, since we're talking about California, I've had a piece of show prep that's just one of those weird stories that deserves some attention, but it's not like real urgent or anything. So I think this is a good time to talk about it, given that we're talking about weird stuff regarding California tonight, Calexit, and socialism and all that. It's about secret societies full of police officers. And so we'll tell you more about that on the way here. But Simonov is on the line first. He's on our Discord server, calling from Alabama. Simonov, you're on Free Talk Live.
What's up, Ian? What's up, Aria?
Hey, what's on your mind?
It was you and nobody were talking about all the court cases that have come out saying police and the government does not need to protect you.
Mm-hmm.
I was calling to actually ask a few of those cases so I could do some more research and possibly start spreading the word about that.
Yeah, so the easiest thing to do is to just search the internet for the words "no obligation to protect." And
I think the most recent one was the school cop in Florida who ran and hid during a school shooting or something.
Yeah, Parkland, I think that was.
Yeah, and they tried to get him in trouble, but the judge ruled, as has happened repeatedly, that he had no obligation to do anything to protect anyone.
Yeah, there have been a multitude of these cases. The first one that comes up when you search for it will be Warren versus District of Columbia, which is a case where the police did not assist with women that were being murdered in their home. They did not come to their assistance, and they were sued ultimately over that. And the court said, nope, we don't have to provide you with any protection. So no legal obligation.
Now, how does that work in places like California, where it's almost impossible to get a gun in order to protect yourself?
You die.
Okay, get the hell out of California, people.
Yeah. So that's one of them, and then the more you dig around, I'm sure you'll find more. But that's what you search for. No obligation to protect, that phrase.
All right. Yeah, because up until y'all mentioned that, I had never actually heard of that.
By the way, I don't know what's going on with your microphone, but you're going in and out of being able to be heard, and it's pretty regularly happening, just so you know.
I mean, most people just assume that the cops do have an obligation to protect, that if they see somebody beating someone on the side of the street, they're obligated to intervene. But they're not.
They think, based on the propaganda, based on movies, based on television, based on the terms on the side of the police car, which frequently say "to protect and serve," which is not really the full truth.
No, it's just an incomplete sentence.
Right.
The rest of it is to protect and serve the state.
Yeah, exactly. So they're serving politicians. They're serving their masters in the state, not you and not me. But anything else you want to share, Simonov? Go ahead.
No, that was going to be all. Thank y'all.
Cool. Yeah, good luck doing that research. It'll be really depressing. Thank you for the call tonight. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. We have someone on those toll-free lines. He's Nathan in Canada. Nathan, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Nathan. You're on the air.
Thank you. I just want to kind of touch on a point. I think it was Kirby with the weird voice. He talks really weird. He was just on your show a few minutes ago.
Well, I mean, you sound kind of weird too, Nathan, but what did you want to talk about?
Yeah, okay. Well, I find it interesting because, I don't know if he is a racist or not. He sounds like he doesn't like white people.
No, that's not the impression I get from Kirby at all.
I can't really ascertain from what I caught from what he's saying. It sounds like I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, you're really wrong about that. Kirby's called a number of times to this show, and he's definitely not a racist.
I don't know. I don't know him personally. Obviously, you do. You may know him better than I do. I hear him once in a while.
Okay, what's your point?
My point is simply, it seems right now that, actually, it's not just right now. The narrative for years has been race. Everything's about race. It really always comes down to race. It's always about an underrepresented group.
Well, that's not my narrative. Whose narrative are you talking about?
I didn't say your narrative.
Okay.
I said the narrative. So the narrative you hear about is...
You mean like mainstream media?
Yeah. Mainstream media obviously would be a big proponent of that, obviously, yeah. And then it's been something that's becoming more and more relevant. Well, relevant to whoever's pushing the agenda. I think it's an agenda because there's plenty of other groups that are highly underrepresented, and they never get media attention.
Sure.
You'll never hear about
like the libertarians.
Like the libertarians or people with mental illness, people with legitimate mental illness. I know that you had some gentleman call in the other day and said that he had autism, and I thought that was quite offensive because I actually do have autism and OCD.
Why
is that offensive?
Why would you think he didn't have autism?
I didn't think he did. I said it was offensive.
Why is it offensive?
I just do. I don't think it's right for people to call in and pretend if they are.
Oh, you think he was joking? I don't remember
That's
the call.
my question. Why do you think he didn't have autism?
I didn't say I don't think he does. I said if he did that. If he doesn't.
So why be offended by a potential? Why are you offended by a potential reality?
I just find it offensive.
Okay.
Just like everyone.
Maybe that's your autism or something. I don't know.
It possibly could be.
Yeah.
The relevant point is.
Yeah. Okay.
These groups for years have been used for science experiments, open brain surgery performed on them to find out whether or not they could be changed by that. I really have to look at that and say that if you really look at history and how people with any type of mental illness have been treated throughout the years, it's much worse than anybody, including Jews. I'm not racist. I'm not. I'm not saying there wasn't been atrocities.
I'm not racist, but the Jews didn't have it as bad as the mentally ill people like me.
Is that what you just said? Because I wasn't clear on what you were saying.
That's exactly what I'm saying. From looking at it in that perspective, if you look at the amount of people that have been locked in asylums, and we're not talking about just being killed. Remember, death isn't always the worst thing that can happen to a person.
Okay, I just want to make sure I'm understanding what you're saying. You're saying that the mental health system sucks and that they're putting people into these systems against their will?
I'm saying people just like you or I, if I were an average everyday person walking around looking at someone who acts different or has different tics or whatever it may be that they see on the exterior, because some people with autism have extreme exterior, you can see it exteriorly. There's a lot of difference in how they act in a public place or around people. Some aren't so much. They were locked away, tortured, and it wasn't just for a year. It wasn't for 3 years. It was for years.
Well, in some places, in some parts of history, that's true. But in other places and other parts of history, in other places and other parts of history, those people were made into like priests and shamans and chieftains and stuff because they were considered to be in touch with the divine.
Well, maybe.
I mean, there's no maybe. That's factually true. It's not. It's
but are you
not
saying
always
that
true.
happens now, Nathan? Are you saying that's happening now to autistic people, that they're being put away for years?
Okay, what I'm saying now is over the last, let's say, 15 years, maybe, there's been some representation of people that suffer with any type of mental illness. Okay, that's been starting to come out more now.
Okay, yeah, because I've heard a lot more about autism in the last 15 years of my life than I ever heard before that.
That's right. That's about that amount of time, about 15 years. It's been when it's been more. No, but I'm talking about prior. When I was a kid, my family would drive me by the local mental institution, and it's quite a large one. You can look it up. It was called Central Care in St. John, New Brunswick, Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And they would tell me that's where you're going to go if you ever act like this in public around people.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty harsh. Thank you, Nathan, for the call tonight. I mean, I don't doubt that people with mental illness have been treated very poorly. There are some really horror stories, horrific stories about people being.
I mean, bedlam is a thing in English culture because of what people have done to the mentally ill throughout history.
There's a horrifying history on that. There's no doubt about it. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. You can bring up whatever you want. Take control of the airwaves here. This is Free Talk Live.
Are you ready for what's next? It's likely coming. More food shortages, power outages, grocery stores closed, social unrest. Ask yourself, do you have enough food and supplies on hand to last at least 30 days? Most Americans do not, but you can. Avoid the panic of the last-minute rush. Order your 4-week supply of emergency food today from mypatriotsupply.com. Starvation or dependency on the government are your only alternatives. Avoid those and the pain of being unprepared. Go to mypatriotsupply.com right now. Build your emergency food supply with meals that last up to 25 years in storage, shipped discreetly to your door. Folks that know what's coming are using today to prepare. There's time for you to do the same. That's MyPatriotSupply.com, the original Patriot Preparedness Company. MyPatriotSupply.com.
When you have a pain in the neck, a real pain in the neck, back, shoulder, or legs, you now have 2 convenient choices to get fast relief without taking another pill. Because now, Sunny Bay heating wraps and pillows are available at both Amazon and Walmart. Yes, see Sunny Bay's 4.5 to 5-star customer reviews on Amazon.com or Walmart.com. Our made in the USA microwavable heat wraps, heatable neck pillows, and extra large body wraps are designed better for perfect support where and when you need it. Even while driving, Sunny Bay wraps will not burn and stay balanced to provide soothing hot or cold therapy to help treat temporary or chronic pain. And the best part? Sunny Bay quality products start at under $20. Join thousands of happy customers and see why Sunny Bay products have a lifetime 100% positive rating on both Amazon and Etsy. It's easy. Click Amazon or Walmart and search today for Sunny Bay.
The political world is a maddening cesspool of corruption and lies. Nobody tells the truth. Nobody keeps campaign promises. Nobody obeys the Constitution. Nobody puts the people first. How can we ever escape this web of tyranny? Vote for nobody.
Hi, my name is Nobody. I'm running for governor of New Hampshire because nobody knows how to live your life better than you do, and nobody deserves that kind of power. I want to put you back in control of your money, your lifestyle, your work, your body, and your life. Nobody should rule you but you. New Hampshire convicts many people of so-called crimes that should never have been prosecuted. If elected, I will pardon every victimless crime in New Hampshire history. This includes drug, gambling, prostitution, gun, and driving offenses. Nobody should have a criminal record when they have not harmed anybody.
Wouldn't it be nice to have nobody telling you what to do? Learn more at electnobody.com. electnobody.com.
The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
This is the Liberty Radio Network, broadcasting the latest liberty-oriented audio content 24 hours a day at LRN.FM.
This is Free Talk Live, and you're invited to join us here. The toll-free number is 855-450, free like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. We have the Discord call-in line rooms over at discord.lrn.fm. Whether you want to talk about secession or whatever is on your mind, we just had a guy call in about autism. So, anything goes here on Free Talk Live. With you in the studio tonight, you've got Ian.
Aria.
And the point here is you can take control of the airwaves. That's what we do on this program. And I do want to say thank you to Jared H., who is a Free Talk Live Gold amplifier. Jared contributes $10 a month because he's a gold level, which is twice what we ask for. So thank you, Jared, for that. $10 a month to the AMP program. That helps us get on more radio stations around the United States, bringing new listeners on board with the ideas of freedom. So if you value that, and if it's worth the cost of a fancy cup of coffee or a cheeseburger or whatever to you, please head over to amp.freetalklive.com. That's ampamp.freetalklive.com. Ian and Aria here as we go to this bizarre story that it's an area that you don't hear a lot about. I mean, we talk a lot about over the years, we've talked a lot about police abuse and police victimizing peaceful people, not just things like the insane war on drugs, destroying lives through prohibition, but also just the widespread corruption and, of course, the violence of the police has been on the focus, even in the mainstream media to some extent. Now, they're always painting it as, the police are only mean to black people. Well, no, the police are violent against all kinds of victims of all kinds of colors and shapes and sizes.
They do not discriminate.
I mean, they do. Some of them do.
Well, I mean, they attack people indiscriminately.
They will attack almost anyone, right? Like, unless you're super wealthy and they know you've got a bunch of lawyers, they generally will attack pretty much anybody else that they think they can get away with.
Didn't they attack an NFL? Yeah, they shot and killed an NFL player recently.
Really?
Yeah, he was stalking his girlfriend who had a restraining order on him because he was abusive or something, and she called the police, and they came out. He wouldn't surrender, so they shot and killed him.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I mean...
I don't know all of the details beyond that.
Me neither, and certainly there are some times when somebody does need to be shot and killed. I'm not saying that was one of those times.
Sure.
Again, I don't know the details either. But then you get into this story from the Los Angeles Times. It was published earlier this month about secret societies. Now, normally when you hear about secret societies, it's in like an Alex Jones movie or some kind of conspiracy theory, film on the internet.
Well, I mean, we know they exist.
Well, of course they do. They have to exist. The Skull and Bones, the Illuminati, these are the ones that we know the names of. There's probably secret societies that we don't know the names of. In fact, you probably have never heard of the Vikings, the Regulators, or the 3000 Boys, or the Banditos. But those are some of the names that we're going to talk about here.
None of these sound like they should belong to police.
Right?
They sound like they should belong to, like, private gangs.
Well, that's the thing.
Banditos? Isn't that Spanish for bandits?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Okay, so, I mean, they're upfront about what they're doing then, so good on them.
Well, it's a secret, so they're not upfront about it. That's just one of the names, the alleged names of their groups. So the story here from the Los Angeles Times, which again, a respected media organization, right? Like this isn't some hole in the wall.
Well, as respected as any of them are.
Yeah, which is to say they're garbage, but they're less garbage generally in people's minds than a lot of media. So
it's not InfoWars.
They paid out $55 million in taxpayer money in settlements in cases in which sheriff's deputies in Los Angeles County have been alleged to belong to a secret society, according to records obtained by the Los Angeles Times, illuminating the entrenched nature of a subculture.
Where did this money go? Taxpayers paid it?
In settlements, meaning the victims of these police have received $55 million in taxpayer money.
Okay, because the police belong to secret societies?
No, the common thread is that the police, in these cases, allegedly belong to a secret society. So they've paid out more to other victims in other cases, but these are the ones that have to do with secret societies. And this is a subculture that has plagued the sheriff's department for years, they say. The figure comes from a list that includes payouts in dozens of lawsuits and claims involving deputies associated with tattooed groups accused of glorifying an aggressive style of policing. The report, prepared by LA County attorneys, lists nearly 60 cases, some of them still pending, and names 8 specific cliques. Now, I don't know if you remember years ago, Aria, there was a story, and this might have been a decade or more ago, but there was the LAPD Rampart Division. Did you ever hear about them?
I did not.
Yeah, these are like the bad boys of the LAPD, and they, will push people around if they needed to or whatever. And they got into the news because they were so corrupt, like that they had,
obviously
they'd gone beyond the level of typical police corruption and had gotten into the noteworthy police corruption kind of level.
That's an achievement.
So my point here is this was years and years ago that Rampart was in the news, and here we are again with $55 million in settlements and 8 groups of banditos. So nothing's changed is the point I'm trying to make here after all this time and all the continued payouts. The county's paid out.
Well, of course, because the police aren't the ones paying for it. Taxpayers are.
Correct. So there's no reason to root these people out. In fact, the corruption probably goes all the way up to the top, but they haven't caught the chief of police yet. He's protected. The county's paid out nearly $21 million in cases beginning in just the last 10 years alone, according to the document. The high cost underscores how these deputy groups with monikers such as the Vikings, Regulators, 3000 Boys, and the Banditos have operated out of several sheriff's department stations and jails for decades, exhibiting what critics have long alleged are the violent, intimidating tactics similar in some ways to criminal street gangs.
I mean, similar in all ways.
Yeah.
That's what police are. They're a criminal street gang.
Yep, I actually had to answer that question today in my interview with the Keene Sentinel, the local newspaper here, and I explained to him why I kept referring, because I kept referring to the government as criminal enterprises, and so he ultimately asked a question about it, and so I explained to him that they're basically the same thing as criminal gangs. It's just the most successful one in any given geographic area. They have a monopoly on violence, and they've gotten it that way because they've convinced people that there's something else. They've managed to fool people into believing that they're part of this, that we're the government. Oh, we're all together in this. We're you.
But they're
as
not.
They crush your head under their
right.
boot. So over the years, by the way, the cases involve violent, intimidating tactics, and they go back to as far as 1990. Over the years, a succession of elected sheriffs has failed to bring the subgroups under control, despite multiple internal investigations.
Oh, shocking. The internal investigations conducted by the police about the police didn't
Turned up
work.
nothing. Yeah.
Who would have ever expected it?
Oh, and they were probed by the FBI.
Oh, by other police.
Yeah. A probe. Many civil liberties advocates and county watchdogs have accused the sheriff's department of turning a blind eye. Well, what else could it mean? It means one of two things. Either they're turning a blind eye, they know what's going on, and they're purposefully ignoring it
because they're part of it.
Right. Because they're they're part of the gang, or they're so afraid of the gang that they don't want to touch them. It's one or the other. Right? Like you either joined a gang or you do what the gang tells you. Because otherwise the gang's going to FS up. They're going to come in and they're going to break some stuff. They're going to give you an offer you can't refuse. Right? Yeah. They're going to kidnap your wife. They're going to cut the head off your dog and leave it on your front porch. And they're going to do whatever they got to do to make sure you stay in line. And every sheriff, if these gangs are as influential as they probably are, if there's 8 of them that they're talking about, 8 different competing gangs.
In one single county.
Yeah. If they're as influential as it sounds like they are, then you better be afraid of them. Because what are you going to do? Are you going to out all of their members? Do you know who they all are? They're a secret. So there's a good
This is why you don't have a police force. Because it collects into a single place people who do crap like this.
Yep.
I mean, it's a job where you get to inflict violence on people to make them comply with what you want them to do. So that's all they do. It's no surprise whatsoever that they ultimately could do it to other cops to get them to turn a blind eye to it.
Right. And what would a police gang want to do? They'd want to go out and take things from other gangs, right? So if they can bust a drug gang in town, they can take their drugs.
Because they don't like competition.
That's right. They can then sell the drugs.
Yeah.
They'd rather do that than actually arrest these people. And again, I don't think they should. I think the war on drugs should end, but that's not helping. They're not helping by stealing the drugs from the existing drug dealers and selling it themselves. John Sweeney, attorney who's represented families of people killed by deputies, says, quote, I think it's a willful failure. For some reason, they pride themselves, the sheriff's department, on having these violent cliques. I guess to show the public who's the boss. But what it does is it just fosters a horrible relationship between the community that these sheriffs serve, unquote. The Board of Supervisors requested the list of payouts last year after the Times reported that members of the Banditos, who operate out of the East LA station, so they know which police station the Banditos run, were accused of assaulting other deputies during an off-duty party in 2018.
But if we didn't have police, we would have street gangs fighting each other.
855-450-FREE, like freedom. You can join us here. This is Free Talk Live.
Maxwell, he was a runaway to rescue, great disposition. About 9 years ago, he was scratching a lot, and he started losing some hair. My vet, she says, oh, he must be allergic to the chicken. Another vet said, it's the grain. Third vet, she says it's the weather, something in the air. And then somebody said, DINOVITE.com. I had been listening to the Dynamite ads, hearing about different stories of different people, and it just clicked. I got my first 90-day supply, and it took a grand total of 2 weeks. And the dog stopped itching, the hair stopped falling out.
Dynavite is nutrition.
And Maxwell loves it. Now he's close to 10, and the Dynavite is a big part of Maxwell's diet.
Dynavite for life. You won't believe how happy your dog will be.
And he's a spectacular dog.
DINOVITE.com.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
The challenger has the upper hand. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. New Fox News polls look at 3 states in play ahead of the election.
President Trump was in one of those states today, North Carolina.
We must uphold the rule of law and defend the American dream.
The poll finds if ballots were cast today, voters would favor Democratic nominee Joe Biden over President Trump 50 to 46% in North Carolina, 49 to 40% in Arizona, and 50 to 42% in Wisconsin. The president is tied or holds an edge on handling the economy, while Biden is favored on coronavirus, which Biden linked in a speech today to getting kids back in class.
President Trump still doesn't have any real plan for how to open our schools safely.
Half or more of likely voters disapprove of the president's job performance in all 3 states. Gernal Scott, Fox News.
The Trump administration says it won't pay more than $60 million in dues the U.S. owes to the World Health Organization, and instead will use the money to pay down assessments owed to the United Nations. Earlier this year, the administration announced the decision to withdraw from the WHO over what President Trump said was its mishandling of the pandemic. A San Francisco Bay Area police officer charged with voluntary manslaughter in the shooting death of a black man inside a Walmart. San Leandro officer Jason Fletcher charged in the killing of Stephen Taylor April 18th. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi blaming the salon after a video first surfaced getting her hair done in San Francisco over the weekend, where salons are not yet allowed to open.
When they said, well, we're able to accommodate people one person at a time, and that we can set up that time, I trusted that. As it turns out, it was a setup.
Pelosi is seen on video not wearing a mask with a stylist who is wearing one in an otherwise empty salon. America is listening to Fox News. A committee in Washington, D.C. with a list.
For over 20 years, millions of customers have trusted Blinds.com to update their homes. Because Blinds.com makes it easy to get custom blinds that'll give your windows a high-end look without the high-end price. Whether you like to DIY, need design help, or prefer measure and install services, they do it all with easy online ordering and free shipping right to your door. If you're unsure, know that Blinds.com has over 30,000 5-star customer reviews, and they guarantee the perfect fit for your windows, whether you do it yourself or have them measure and install everything for you.
Right now, shop Blinds.com's Labor Day Savings Event right from home with easy online ordering and free shipping right to your door. You'll save up to 40% on everything through September 8th. Interior blinds, shades, shutters, even outdoor shades. Plus, pay over 24 months at 0% APR on qualifying purchases with PayPal Credit Easy payments through 9/17/2020.
As of March 1st, 2020, new PayPal credit accounts have a variable purchase APR of 25.49% that will vary with the market based on the prime rate. Minimum interest charge is $2, subject to credit approval. Visit Blinds.com/PayPal. Other rules and restrictions may apply.
To recommended changes to dozens of monuments and statues and other historical areas due to connections to slavery.
The 24-page report summary from the task force called DC Faces recommends renaming, relocating, or adding context to dozens of monuments, schools, parks, and buildings. Among those on the list, the Washington Washington Monument and the Jefferson Memorial. There have been recent recommendations to add plaques to those monuments explaining that their namesakes were slave owners. The task force was formed over the summer at the request of D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser in the wake of protest over police brutality and racial inequality. Many of the monuments are on federal land outside D.C.'s control, with pushback coming from some like Interior Secretary David Bernhardt, who tweeted, quote, "Not on my watch." Tanya J. Powers, Fox News.
The federal budget deficit is projected to hit a record $3.3 trillion due to COVID-19 costs and the recession. That's more than triple the 2019 shortfall. That's according to the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office. Ford slashing 1,400 jobs as part of a restructuring plan.
Ford, in a statement, says the elimination of 1,400 salary jobs by year's end through voluntary buyouts wasn't part of the coronavirus slowdown, rather part of the company's multi-year $11 billion global restructuring and cost-cutting plan amid the phase-out of passenger cars like the Fiesta, Fusion, and Taurus. And as Ford shifts business toward crossovers, SUVs, and its most popular profitable truck brand, the F-150, and more focus on autonomous and electric vehicles. Jeff Manasso, Fox News.
Voters in Mississippi will have the final say on a new state flag in November. A commission charged with coming up with a new design after the state flag that featured the Confederate battle emblem was retired 2 months ago. Voters will recommend one with a magnolia. I'm Lisa Lacera. This is Fox News.
Blinds.com makes...
A cool guy from middle school is still sporting his fat pair of Jinkos. A stunned St. Peter's Square crowd hears the Pope getting bitched out by God, and an 8th grader caked in makeup is probably really confident. This is The Onion Week in Review. This week, a Pew Research Center poll found that the vast majority of Americans would watch a television show called Love Trap, with most saying that regardless of the show's genre or quality, they would tune in weekly to see its stars stumble into romantic triangles, double-cross one another, and contend with whatever the titular love trap refers to. The survey confirmed that 62% of Americans would likely watch Love Trap to see a shrewd but cold-hearted Southern belle named Tammy. 23% of the nation hoped the show would be referred to as The Trap by its most loyal fans, and 15% of respondents said they simply needed something to watch. And in this week's Science News, a biologist completes a 5-minute study of the pathetic organism in his mirror. In other news, a man confidently hits send on the worst job application a company has ever seen.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
Hey, it's Free Talk Live. We're kicking off another hour here. Hour number 3. You can take control of the airwaves. You just got to dial in toll-free. We're talking about the banditos. We're talking about the regulators, the Vikings, the 3,000 boys, and apparently there's 4 other names they didn't put into this article. In a story about, there's the Los Angeles Times reporting that the Los Angeles County has itself about 8 different deputy secret societies. These are groups of sheriff's deputies who have been using violent, intimidating tactics similar to street gangs, which, of course, we know that the police generally are similar to street gangs, regardless of the level of violence that they use. They are using a monopoly. They do have a monopoly on violence in a given geographic area. And surprise, that leads to some behavior that in the case of Los Angeles, which is the largest, as far as, or one of the largest by square mileage, biggest cities in the United States. Like Los Angeles is much larger in mileage, from what I understand, than, say, New York City, where there's a lot of sort of built up, a lot of tall buildings or whatever. Not to say that there aren't tall buildings in Los Angeles, but there's a lot more sprawl, I guess you could say, in L.A. And so there's a ton of cops there. And amongst this particular mentality, they are, sectioning themselves off into competing gangs and actually attacking one another. According to allegations, this is the Board of Supervisors requested the list of payouts, which has totaled, by the way, millions, dozens of millions of dollars. So $55 million in settlements over the last 30 years, $21 million of that in the last decade. And so they requested that information. This was after there was an attack by members of the Banditos who assaulted other deputies during an off-duty party in 2018 where one deputy was knocked unconscious. Sheriff Alex Villanueva has said he's put measures in place in February that prohibit deputies from participating in cliques. Well, problem solved.
Yay!
We're just going home. Done. There's now a provision in place.
He wrote something down on a sheet of paper. He may have even typed it up.
He said in a statement, quote, "The fact that I've had to address these issues, which have been festering since 1990, is an illustration of the failure of past sheriffs from addressing the issue head on," he said in a statement, adding that he transferred leadership personnel from at least one station to combat the clique problem and was holding employees accountable if they failed to uphold the new policy.
There's a better solution. I mean, these are secret societies, right? So, I mean, they're used to acting as secret. Fire them all.
Yeah, that's the point that he didn't make in his statement. He said he transferred people from one station to another.
Fire them. They literally created a secret gang of people within a secret gang of people that engage in extra violence.
He can't fire them.
He can. He chose not to.
What'll happen if he does?
Well, sometimes you have to put your life at risk to do something good.
Well, that's not why he became sheriff. I mean, he became sheriff for power.
I have no response. You're correct.
Most likely. That's likely what's going on here. Because you don't get up to be sheriff in a county with 8 gangs unless you've appeased some of the gangs, right? Like you've got to do somebody some favors if you're going to be in that position and not be messed with, right? You've got to do whichever one of these 8 gangs is the toughest gang, you want to be on their good side as the sheriff, I presume, right?
But you're the sheriff. You have the toughest gang on your side.
Yeah, but you don't know who's who, right? So
that's why you fire them all and bring in new people who are on your side.
Well, they're not thinking that way, and that there's no guarantee that who you bring in is already going to be on your side.
True.
So you're dealing with people that you don't know. You know, like when it comes to taking down a president, you know, like Nicolas Maduro from Venezuela, what if his right-hand man puts a gun to his head and takes him down? Like all the protection in the world of whatever military or soldiers that he's got isn't going to stop that from happening. If this guy is like...
Well, that's why these people become so paranoid, right?
Sure, because that can actually happen to them.
I mean, it happens all the time. I don't know about all the time, but it happens.
It can happen. So they get super paranoid, and so those sorts of things could happen in a sheriff's department, right? Like you don't know who your lieutenants are. You know, you've worked with them for a long time, but how do you know that one of them didn't just join the Banditos and swear an oath of allegiance to the Banditos to do whatever it is the Banditos say? And what's he going to do? Maybe he won't put a gun to your head and blow your brains out. Maybe it'll be something more subtle. Maybe they'll plant some evidence, that you did something that you didn't do and turn it over to them. So who knows, what these people are capable of. So whether this sheriff's in on it or whether he's just living in fear of what the gangs might do to him, he's not doing anything serious here. He has transferred leadership personnel from at least one station. This is what he's patting himself on the back.
From one station.
At least one. So it could be 2. To quote, combat the clique problem. That's how he's combating it. He's just going to move some bureaucrats around.
But there are 8 of these gangs, right?
That's what they're saying, yeah.
So presumably there are at least 8 precincts.
And we don't know exactly what the policy is, but he's saying he's holding his employees accountable if they fail to uphold the new policy. Yeah? How's that? What are you going to do to hold them accountable exactly? That's like, weasel words. Oh, yeah, we're holding our employees accountable. Well, what do you mean by that? Well, we've written them some sternly worded letters. You were a bad deputy. You were supposed to uphold our new policy, and you didn't. Shame on you. And if we catch you doing it again, we're going to shame you again.
Yeah.
Right? There's no real penalty here.
Well, I mean, even if there is, how could they possibly enforce it? I mean, as you point out, how do you root out a secret society?
Yeah, great question. Inspector General Max Huntsman.
How do we know you're not in the Skull and Bones Society?
You don't.
Right. There's no reason to believe you are,
yeah,
but
it's a secret.
Any one of us could be. and nobody would ever know.
Last week, Inspector General Max Huntsman said that he was, quote, aware of no implementation whatsoever of Villanueva's new measures, and that his office couldn't effectively investigate the secret societies, quote, because of the obstruction of the sheriff's department, unquote, whatever that means. Huntsman said the criminal investigation in the off-duty Bandidos beating amounted to a cover-up, noting that more than 20 deputies present during the incident were not required to give statements. Normally, if there's a bar fight that goes on and the cops show up, they want to take statements from all the witnesses.
Yeah.
Why were 20 men present for the fight, but they didn't have to give statements? Things that make you go,
It definitely sounds like the sheriff that we're discussing is probably in one of these gangs.
Yeah. The fix is in, for sure.
Yeah.
Lieutenant John Satterfield said investigators conducted more than 70 interviews as part of an administrative investigation of the Bandidos' claims and were sharing information from reviews under the new click policy with the FBI. Quote, the IG continues to further the distorted narrative that his office has not provided documents or information in order to investigate or provide oversight. He said, adding that in the last 13 months, the Oversight Office has had access to more than 500 documents. Quote, despite his misleading statements, the sheriff continues to provide him with access and continues to welcome oversight. So you've got bureaucrats fighting bureaucrats, which I particularly enjoy when this happens.
Sure, because then they're not being productive bureaucrats, whatever a productive bureaucrat is.
Well, in this case, productive would be arresting people like you and I. So if they're busy fighting each other, then they can't be out arresting, peaceful people.
Right.
So I do enjoy it when the government bureaucrats do fight one another. So it's fun to watch. So you got this inspector general who's saying that this sheriff is full of it. The sheriff is not doing the things that he's saying that he's doing, and the sheriff's man.
He probably did write something down.
The sheriff.
Yeah.
Yes, he did write some things down. But the lieutenant for the sheriff's guy is attacking the inspector general, basically saying, "Oh no, we turned over all this stuff, and look, we really want you to come investigate us." Defenders of the deputy clique say they represent hard work and boost morale by fostering camaraderie. Sean Kennedy, member of the Civilian Oversight Committee and professor at Loyola Law School, said last week he and his students identified at least 17 gangs, some of them historical, meaning they don't exist today, in the department. The largest payout on the list, $10 million, $10.1 million, went to a man, Francisco Carrillo Jr., who spent 20 years behind bars before having a murder conviction overturned in 2011. So they falsified evidence against this guy, these gangsters. More coming up here in moments, but are they really that different from your local police department? It's Free Talk Live. You can share your thoughts.
News from news.bitcoin.com. U.S. Postal Service files a patent for new blockchain voting method. Warren Buffett changes his opinion on gold. Maybe Bitcoin is next. $6 billion Acon cryptocurrency city underway. Former Prudential CEO says now's the time to buy Bitcoin. Bitcoin.com is your source for getting started with cryptocurrencies. Getting a wallet, buying Bitcoin Cash, mining, and all the latest cryptocurrency news at news.bitcoin.com. Subscribe to Bitcoin.com's YouTube channel too.
Maxwell, he was scratching and losing some hair. My vet, she says, oh, he must be allergic to chicken. Another vet said, it's the drain. Third vet said, it's the weather. Then somebody said, DINOVITE.com. It took 2 weeks, and the dog stopped itching, the hair stopped falling out. The Dinovite is a big part of Maxwell's diet.
You get some Dinovite, how happy your dog will be.
DINOVITE.com.
Got shaving irritation? Shave Secret shaving oil can help stop it. Shave Secret doesn't cost much and is an all-American product. My name is Chuck Howard, and I developed Shave Secret and pioneered its use starting back in 1991. Ingrown hairs drove me nuts for years. Shaving oil changed all that. Why put up with ingrown hair, bumps, red rash, nicks, and cuts? Shave Secret provides men and women with what we believe is the best shave ever. Our proprietary blend of 100% natural base and essential oils, plus a hint of menthol, was designed to help eliminate shaving irritations like ingrown hairs, bumps, red rash, nicks, and cuts. We'll lose those shaving irritations. Available at Super Walmart, H-E-B, Wegmans, Giant Eagle, Discount Drug, Navy and Marine Exchanges, Amazon, and ShaveSecret.com. Use the code FTL for Free Talk Live and get a discount. Shave Secret, the best shave ever.
Is spreading the message of liberty, cryptocurrency, and peace around the globe worth $2 per month to you? As you may already know, in addition to our internet feed, LRN.FM broadcasts on free-to-air satellite across North and Central America, as well as Sub-Saharan Africa. And we've been available on satellite for free 24/7 since 2010. The LRN.FM free-to-air satellite signal is reaching some of the most oppressive regimes in the world, and there's no doubt our ideas are making an impact. You can learn more about the channel's impact by watching the 3-minute video at fund.lrn.fm. If you'd like to help free minds globally with our ideas of liberty, cryptocurrency, and peace, you can donate as little as $2 per month via fund.lrn.fm. You can help us continue and expand our satellite broadcast to multiple continents. Visit fund.lrn.fm today, and thank you for your help. Don't forget to share the link on social media. That's fund.lrn.fm. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone? You forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection. You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
Cell 411 is a free app for Android and iOS that replaces government-controlled 911. Cell 411 allows you to preset a group of friends or private organizations to show up at any emergency. Cell 411 is a nightmare for the state because it proves their so-called services aren't needed. Cell 411 has had thousands of installs, and of course it's covered by the BIPCOT no government license. Cell 411 because your friends won't shoot you when you're in trouble. Without the government, who would build the emergency services? You and Cell 411. Get it today at getcell411.com.
You can sign up to receive the latest about the Liberty Radio Network via our email updates at updates.lrn.fm. That's updates.lrn.fm.
Free Talk Live. You can bring up anything you want. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. We're talking about secret societies of cops. In fact, like a dozen of them in the Los Angeles area. In fact, they counted 17. There's 8 of them that are named in a recent report, but another report counted 17, some of them historical, but there's a lot of these gangs out there. And, but do we repeat ourselves? These are sub-gangs. So there's the gang of the police. This is a group of men and women who have the ability to use violence to achieve their way, which is in this case usually at the behest of people calling themselves legislators. These legislators pass these arbitrarily worded, edicts, and the cops go around and they enforce them. To some extent, they
usually don't know what the edicts actually are.
The cops don't, you mean?
Yeah. They usually have no idea what the law is.
They don't know all of them, but they know enough to make some arrests.
They know some laws.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes they got to look it up.
They know that, like, heroin is illegal.
That's right.
But they
know it's illegal to run through the stop sign out here in front of the studio.
Yeah.
But there was a cop that was enforcing that law or that traffic ordinance or whatever it is. And he admitted while he was in the process of enforcing it that he didn't think the stop sign should be there.
Did anyone get a video? Yeah, it was a polite conversation, though.
Yeah, it was an off-the-record conversation.
Gotcha.
So that's why I'm not going to say who it was.
Right.
But he admitted that he thinks the stop sign should not be there at all.
Well, it's a stupid stop sign.
Right. Well, it's a three-way stop, and one of those ways is clearly a way that could just continue to be.
I mean, it's a continuous road.
Yeah. So there's no need for a stop sign there. But some kid got hit a decade and a half ago, and I'm not making that up. That's one of the neighbors told me around here is why those stop signs were put in. Some kid was in the road and allegedly might have almost gotten hit or got hit by a car. And so now everybody's got to stop this pointless stop sign because some kid was dumb enough to walk into the street.
I mean, that sounds like government.
Yeah.
We have Jessica's Law here in New Hampshire or whatever, which is a tragic freak accident where a sheet of ice slid off a rig as it was driving down the road, a semi, and it killed this girl.
Yep.
Horrifically unlikely scenario. But hey, it happened.
Not unlikely. I mean, ice comes off of big rigs a lot during the wintertime.
Yeah, but it's not likely to hit and kill someone.
If you're behind the big rig, it could.
Well, she wasn't in a vehicle, I don't think.
Well, how the hell? Oh, she's like on the side of the road?
Yeah, she was like hanging out in her yard or whatever.
It could
if
still
I remember
do some
correctly.
serious damage.
Yeah, but it's not likely to happen. It's a 1 in a billion chance of occurrence.
Yeah.
But now there's a law that says you have to wipe off all of the snow and ice from your vehicle before driving it. And of course, the one vehicle they never check are these very same semis. It's not like the states enforcing this law are carrying around ladders to make sure that the semis' tops are clear.
Yeah, I feel like I heard something about that the semi drivers have a way of dealing with like getting the ice off of there pretty easily. So like they have like brushes or something that they can drive through that takes care of it. I don't know. Maybe I don't either. Maybe a professional driver can explain how that's the case, because it's probably not just true in New Hampshire. There's probably similar laws elsewhere, because it is dangerous to have flying pieces of ice coming off of somebody's big rig as you're behind it.
Sure.
Because they can come down and like bust up your windshield or...
I'm not saying it's not dangerous, but we don't need a law.
No, we certainly don't. I mean, liability should be enough, right? Like if somebody dies because something just came off your car that you could have removed, then that's your fault, right?
Yeah.
You were the one that didn't do what you could have done. So a little bit more here about these criminal deputies that the Los Angeles Times is outing, at least the fact that they exist. We don't know who they are, but we know that they exist because there's been a lot of research done into them, because they've existed since at least 1990. And according to the story here at the LA Times, the largest payout went to a man who spent 20 years behind bars after a murder conviction was overturned in 2011. He was 16 when they put him in prison. At the time of the 1991 fatal drive-by shooting, maintained his innocence throughout 2 trials, and while he was in prison, 20 years, he finally got out. Sued later on, claiming deputies had improperly influenced witnesses to pick his picture from a photo lineup, and that deputies involved in the case were members of the Linwood Vikings, a white supremacist gang.
Of course they were. I suspected it the moment you said Vikings, man.
Within the sheriff's department. Quote, "This has been a cancer on the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department for decades," said Ron Kay, an attorney.
Burn the thing down and start over. Or better yet, don't start over.
Yeah, just stop. But the only reason, he says, is this type of illegal activity and lawlessness under the color of law can survive is if the department and its administration looks the other way. Or are part of it, I would add. Another lawsuit involving a bicyclist shot and killed by deputies in South Los Angeles was settled for $1.5 million in 2018, in part because one deputy had probably committed perjury when he denied he was a member of the Regulators, a gang operating out of the Century Station in Los Angeles.
So they know which stations these deputies are part of?
Mm-hmm.
And these deputies still work there, presumably?
Yeah. You seem surprised about this.
I'm a bit surprised, yes. It's like, hey, we know this guy is in this secret society that uses intimidation, unlawful intimidation tactics that are a gang within a gang that escalates the amount of violence and intimidation they use against people, and we're just going
It's fine.
It's fine.
Several of the payouts involve the 3,000 boys and the 2,000 boys. Apparently there's 2 gangs with 2 different numbers at Men's Central Jail. So you got jail corrections officers gangs, it sounds like. A top jail official had described exclusive gangs of deputies who would, quote, earn their ink, unquote, by breaking inmates' bones. So they had initiations, right? So if you want to get into the 3,000 boys, you got to go F one of those inmates up. Break a bone, we'll let you in. Richard Druyan said the court-appointed monitor of jail reforms in the Sheriff's Department said the agency had taken steps to address the problem in the jails, where deputies are rotated into different assignments more frequently to prevent the formation of cliques. See, that'll stop it. So we're just going to put you on a different part of the jail. That way you can't form a clique. Wait, what? That doesn't stop anything.
No, and even if they mean they're rotating them to different jails or whatever, I mean, sororities and fraternities throughout the United States are regularly getting in new members and losing old members, but yet the organization continues.
They continue. And more recently, a sheriff's deputy filed a claim alleging that the executioners clique, which is not named in the it's a nice name, not named in the county report, essentially runs the Compton Sheriff's Station. The executioners. Sounds like a friendly bunch. Ostroberto Gonzalez's claim, the precursor to a lawsuit, alleges the group numbers about 20 deputies, while 20 more are prospects or associates. So there's different tiers, right? Like you're in the inner circle or you're in the wannabe circle. You're still trying to prove yourself.
And this is of the executioners?
That's right.
Okay.
Many work at night, the claim says, and communicate through WhatsApp. Black and female deputies are not allowed in the clique. The claim says the group sports tattoos.
Why would they expect anything else?
They've got tattoos of a skull with Nazi imagery and an AK-47, and celebrates deputy shootings and the induction of new members with inking parties.
They celebrate deputy shootings?
I think they mean when the deputy shoots somebody, not that when they get their own guy shot.
Okay.
855 450 free. There's a little bit more here about the gangs of Los Angeles, the ones that wear uniforms. 855 450 free. You can join us here, and if you want to tell a story that's related or completely unrelated, you can take control of the airwaves and bring up whatever's on your mind. This is Free Talk Live. 855 450 free, like freedom.
Divvy's been a pretty good investment for Free Talk Live. Their ad campaign started in September 2019, and from mid-March to mid-July, the values soared by 10 times. It's not too late. Divvy's new wallet hasn't even released yet, and other things are happening that I can't even say on the radio. If you want to invest and potentially do well, go to divvyproject.org. I can tell you that FTL is deepening its partnership with the guys from divvyproject.org. Past performance is not an indication of future profit. divvyproject.org. D-I-V-I project.org. News from news.bitcoin.com. U.S. Postal Service files a patent for new blockchain voting method. Warren Buffett changes his opinion on gold. Maybe Bitcoin is next. $6 billion Acon cryptocurrency city underway. Former Prudential CEO says now's the time to buy Bitcoin. Bitcoin.com is your source for getting started with cryptocurrencies. Getting a wallet, buying Bitcoin Cash, mining, and all the latest cryptocurrency news at news.bitcoin.com. Subscribe to Bitcoin.com's YouTube channel too.
Hi, I'm Derek J. I don't want a politician to represent me. To me, government is the idea that one group of people can coerce everyone to comply with an edict or face increasing punishments up to and including death. Despite perhaps the most noble of intentions, the best government services are a far cry from what could be provided for by voluntary interactions. Besides, the people who call themselves the government wage wars and put peaceful people in jail for crimes involving no victims. If Starbucks used some of its money to drop bombs, I wouldn't shop there. So why would I support the American empire? The empire does not require my consent.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com. That's victimlesscrimespree.com. Are you a cryptocurrency advocate? The Crypto Tip is the ideal outreach tool to help new people discover cryptocurrency. It's a printable business card-sized tip that you can give to service providers, preferably in addition to a good cash tip. When the server scans the QR code, it'll bring up an explanation of cryptocurrency, how to install a wallet, and allow them to claim the tip. If they don't claim the crypto, you get your tip refunded to you after a time period you specify. Plus, if they do claim the tip, you get an email alert. Create as many tips as you want at cryptotip.org. That's cryptotip.org. Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get one free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm. On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
Your amp will directly change more lives by getting Free Talk Live in front of people looking for talk radio online and on the air. When you AMP Free Talk Live, you get perks like access to the AMP-only Facebook group and AMP podcast. Visit amp.freetalklive.com.
What's up next? Visit the Liberty Radio Network program guide to find out at shows.lrn.fm. That's shows.lrn.fm.
It's Free Talk Live. Bring up anything you want here. Take control of the airwaves. Our number is 855-450-FREE, like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. It's time to mark your calendars for ForkFest 2021. When? Well, it's happening in basically the same time frame it did this year, just shifted by a day. So mark your calendar for June 28th through July 4th of 2021, and come join us for ForkFest 2021. It will be the 5th annual ForkFest. The 4th one was pretty good. They've all been great and different in their unique ways. This year there was the very first musical performance that we had. Your band, Aria, FUD, played a show, which is actually viewable online on the Free Keene YouTube channel, or go to freekeene.com and scroll down a bit, and it'll be right there. There was also a fireworks show, which the Rogers Campground put on. It was fantastic.
It was beautiful.
I recorded video of that too, but it's nothing more than a shadow of what the reality was. So you want to be there in person for it next year. But that said, you can get a little taste of it. It was like a 40-minute long fireworks show, so it was like by no means a little show. They had a whole lot of like grand finale level kind of fireworks that they set off at this thing. It was pretty impressive. So this year I think was the best year so far for ForkFest.
Oh, easily.
And there have been some great years. No
and
doubt
next year
about
will
it.
be even better.
I think so too. You can start planning now because, well, we know when it's going to be. June 28th through July 4th, or whenever you decide. You can stay later or come in earlier. But go to forkfest.party. You can learn more about the event there. And you can connect with the other Forkfesters, both past and present and future, in the Forkfest chat room on Telegram and also the Forkfest forum. Both of those are linked over at forkfest.party. Again, June 28th through July 4th, 2021. We will see you there as we go to your phone calls, your thoughts. David in Michigan, and then more on corrupt cops on the way. David, you're on Free Talk Live, listening to WKHM in Jackson.
Right on, gentlemen. Thank you for taking my call.
There's a lady here, too, but go ahead.
Oh, there is?
Yeah. Her name's Aria.
Aria?
Yeah.
Lady?
Hi, David.
Go right ahead, David.
Hey, listen, we're in South Central Michigan. Detroit's about 90 miles to the east, and Chicago's probably 5 hours, depending on how fast you go.
Okay.
Been listening. As you know, I can only get you on my low-tech stuff.
Okay.
From 9 to 10 Eastern Standard Time.
Yep. That's when we're on WKHM.
About policies, and the news talks about laws. Talk about Jackson is a prison county.
Yep, that's right. The Parnell Correctional Institute is there.
Talk about paying off. Always boils down to the dough, the money.
Paying off who?
Well, no kidding. For a minute, who's on which side?
Which side are we talking about?
Well, listen. How can one?
What are we talking about?
The best? How can one fare the best?
In regards to what?
Pretty much anything.
Well, I would say to fare the best, you should honor your agreements. Huh?
If a cop is crooked, what's his best interest?
To stop being crooked.
Well, if he's a crooked person, then he's not doing anything for the best. He's trying to help himself.
It expands to every individual.
What does?
Well, unlike the Chicago rioters, how are we going to feed our kids if we don't steal Gucci shoes?
I don't understand the point you're trying to make here, David. I'm pretty lost.
Trying to make the point of, is there policy, law, or free for all? Freedom.
Well, it seems like a free for all. I mean, they claim to have
a little bit of structure, doesn't it?
Well, I mean, that structure can come naturally, David.
Yeah, freedom structures itself.
Yeah, so there's something like in the natural world where things just sort of happen. This order comes about through natural methods, right? So you can see it in nature in a lot of different ways. You know, the patterns of birds in the sky flying about. They're not hitting each other. They managed to like do this order thing.
Yeah, and no law told them to.
Yeah, exactly.
No bird king.
It's just natural law. It's just part of it. It's just part of the whole thing. These structures that come about naturally. Now, someone could argue that the government is a man-made structure that is naturally come about. That would be an argument.
By definition, it is.
And it's time that we break it down. It's time that we realize that it is a decrepit old institution. And David, thanks for the call. Hard to follow, but I think we got something out of it. It's a toll-free number if you want to join us here, 855-450-FREE. It's that easy to get on the air. That's the first call we've had in like an hour and a half, something like that.
It's been light on callers tonight.
That's okay.
It happens.
We got stuff to talk about.
Always.
So a little bit more here about the gangs that are allegedly in the sheriff's department and have been for decades in Los Angeles. They're talking about gangs of cops actually targeting one another. And in the case of the jail, there's jail guards that are targeting inmates for like bone breaking, meaning that you get inducted into one of these gangs, which they call the jail gangs. There's the 3,000 boys and the 2,000 boys.
I'm dying to know why they're called these things.
I'm going to guess it has to do with like the division in the jail or something like that. Like they're in the 3,000 block or 2,000. I'm just guessing. Okay. That's just a shot in the dark. But they say that you don't get in unless you break somebody's bones in the jail. In recent years, the claim says the members were involved in illegal arrest quotas. Oh, I'm sorry, this is... Which group is this? There's so many of them. The Executioners Clique. I'm sorry, this isn't the jail group. So the jail was the ones that were breaking bones to get into the group. This group is the Executioners. They're based in Compton. And they allege the group's got about 20 deputies. They say the group sports tattoos of a skull with Nazi imagery. They won't allow women. They won't allow black deputies.
Yeah, I don't know how to tell people this, but if you see a cop with a skull tattoo with Nazi imagery in it, that's a person who you need to fire immediately. Fire that person. Even if they're not a cop. If you hire someone, whether you're a sheriff or a jail overseer, whatever, or whether you just work at McDonald's, if you hire someone who has that tattoo, you fire them immediately.
You don't want to give them a chance to explain that it was an old tattoo that they
can
got
get
back
cover-ups are a thing.
So they could keep their job if they cover it up?
Yeah.
What if they're a cop?
Then they're fired. I don't care if it's an old tattoo and they've since changed their ways.
In recent years, the claim says the gang members were involved in illegal arrest quotas and threatened work slowdowns, which involve ignoring or responding slowly to calls when they did not get their preferred assignments. Again, this is the Executioners Clique. Gonzalez alleges in his claim the members of the gang retaliated against him after he reported that a deputy who belonged to the Executioners assaulted a colleague. So this is the guy who's essentially the whistleblower on this particular gang.
You don't snitch on your gang, dude.
Banuelos.
Did he not know what he was getting into?
I guess not, and he's lucky to still be alive.
Yeah, I would agree.
This point. So he says that his colleague was assaulted, Mr. Thomas Banuelos, who filed a claim Tuesday alleging the deputy who attacked him warned him not to cooperate with investigators and to lie about the assault, or he would be labeled no good by the clique. So this is actually recent, apparently, this situation. He filed a claim Tuesday. This is fresh. Also on Tuesday, Compton Mayor Aja Brown called on the state attorney general and the U.S. Justice Department to investigate whether Compton deputies had engaged in misconduct, excessive force, discriminatory policing, and improper stops, searches, or arrests. Well, I can just tell you without investigating, they've done all of those things.
Yes, regularly.
And they would have done them if there wasn't a sub-gang within them. That's their job, is to destroy people's lives with this crap.
They just did more of it because of the sub-gang.
The city has a $22 million contract with the Sheriff's Department for patrols and other law enforcement services. Quote, "We demand the same treatment the deputies provide to the residents of Malibu, Rancho Palos Verdes, and other affluent communities, and according to the size of our contract, we have 22 million reasons to expect it," said Brown in Tough Talk. in his statement. So there you go. Is that going to round up all these gang members and shove them out the door? No. Is anything going to significantly change in Los Angeles? No. Remember the Rampart Division? They never, if they went away, they just went into these other gangs. They're not changing anything. There's more coming up. It's Free Talk Live.
With a MechTech carbine conversion unit, you can turn an XD family Glock or 1911 handgun into a carbine rifle in seconds and have it shipped right to your door, no FFL required. Now, MechTech is excited to announce our pistol carbine conversion unit. More compact with a 12-inch barrel and an arm brace, proving once again that MechTech is the world's most versatile handgun accessory. For a limited time, go to handgunconversions.com. That's handgunconversions.com and use coupon code RADIO to receive $35 off any carbine purchase.
Attention radio listeners, have you ever wanted to be independent of the utility companies and actually generate your own supply of off-grid electrical power? If so, this is going to be the most important message you'll ever hear. Here's why. A limited number of solar-powered backup generators are back in stock and now available. These emergency backup systems provide life-saving electrical power when you need it most. And unlike gas generators, a solar generator runs quietly, emits no fumes, and produces an endless supply of free electricity from the sun. It's like having an electric power plant running silently, secretly in your own home. Run sump pumps, shortwave radios, computers, even keep food from spoiling. Go to mysolarbackup.com to learn more. That's mysolarbackup.com. Supplies are still limited and are available on a first-come, first-served basis only. mysolarbackup.com.
Silver has always been nature's very own antibiotic, and only one system allows you to generate an endless supply of natural silver solutions. Silverlungs.com. You'll find no wild claims or pseudoscience, just a lifetime of nano-sized pure silver solutions. The Silver Lungs generator allows you to make your own, so stop paying for silver solutions. The unique lung delivery system targets respiratory infections where other silver solutions simply cannot reach. See the Silver Lungs generator and lung delivery system at silverlungs.com. That's silverlungs.com.
LRN.FM's free-to-air satellite feeds blanket most of 2 continents. It was my goal to put our channel there so people without internet could receive our programs and feed pirate radio stations. As our contract with our satellite provider is coming up for another 3-year renewal, I have to consider calling it quits. It's rare that we get feedback or support from our satellite users. We started a fundraiser a few years ago, and though there are a bunch of great contributors to it, as of this recording, it covers 15% of our monthly satellite costs. Please email lrn@lrn.fm and tell me how you use the satellite feed. Better yet, chip in at fund.lrn.fm. The costs aren't the issue. We can afford them, but why continue something not valued by the market? Want to help? You can join our satellite fundraiser for just $2 a month at fund.lrn.fm. If we raise enough to keep both channels on the air, awesome. If we raise more, I'll add more channels. If not, we can shut them down and go internet only. It's up to you. Thank you for your support. Fund.lrn.fm. So you've heard all 3 hours of the latest episode of Free Talk Live, and you're still hungry for liberty-oriented audio content? Did you know that we have another 24/7 audio stream at lrn.fm? The Liberty Radio Network airs the latest episodes of some of the best liberty-oriented podcasts on the internet around the clock. In addition to recorded content, you'll also hear live shows like Free Talk Live, originating from our Keene, New Hampshire studio. So listen anytime at lrn.fm. That's lrn.fm. Do you have a WordPress website running WooCommerce and want to accept cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, Dash, Bitcoin Cash, and Bitcoin SV? Now you can easily enable crypto payments from your customers by adding the AnyPay plugin to your WordPress site. Just visit anypayinc.com and set up your account by entering your cryptocurrency wallet addresses in the admin. Then enable the AnyPay plugin in your WooCommerce. That's it. Now your website takes crypto like Bitcoin thanks to anypayinc.com. anypayinc.com.
Join the LRN.FM Discord for live chat 24/7 at discord.lrn.fm. That's discord.lrn.fm.
Free Talk Live. You dial in, you take control of the airwaves if you want. Otherwise, we talk about stuff. The number here is 855-450-FREE. With you in the studio tonight, it's Ian.
And Aria.
And also want to invite you over to our satellite fundraiser, which I haven't talked about on the air in quite a while, but I'm going to start doing it here now as sort of a last push attempt to try to bring some attention to this particular outreach program. We started doing a Patreon fundraiser for the LRN.FM satellite channels, which have existed since one of them was started in 2010, the other in 2012. So we're over 2 continents, North and Central America and Sub-Saharan Africa, two different satellite channels. And the point of the Patreon was to try to raise some money to support this form of outreach, which is a way to reach people. In the case of Sub-Saharan Africa, where only like 25% of people have, as of like 2016 numbers, 25% of people have internet access there. So it's very, very low. It's the lowest, with the exception of North Korea. Sub-Saharan Africa is like the worst place in the world to have internet access. So the idea was, well, let's put our channel up there over free-to-air satellite, so the people there, at least the ones that can speak English, can hear the ideas of freedom, and maybe that'll be a good thing. And we've had phone calls from some listeners to that satellite channel, so it's definitely that there are people out there who have heard it, and it has influenced them, and I think it's been a success in that way. But the bad news is that very, very few people have ever supported this particular program. And
it's bound to be an expensive program.
It's not that expensive. I mean, if you think about it, we've got 2 satellite channels for $1,000 a month, roughly. I mean, I can't say, I'm not legally able to disclose the exact amount, but I'll tell you it's not more than $1,000.
Okay.
So for 2 24-hour-a-day satellite channels covering huge swaths of the planet, I consider that to be pretty good.
I would agree, but for the average person, they're expensive. It's expensive to have a satellite in orbit.
Yes, that's true. But if you divvy it up amongst a group of people, $1,000 isn't a lot of money to raise, right? Like per month, that's like on the scale of raising money, that's pretty insignificant, all things considered. That's 10 people doing $100 a month. It's 100 people doing $10 a month. I mean, by no means is that an unreachable goal. But maybe it's because we didn't push it enough or whatever. But there are less than 24 great donators to that program. Some donating as much as $50 a month to what the program is. But ultimately, it's only about $150 and change per month that's coming into that. So we're covering maybe 15% of the costs. So my thought was, maybe offering a matching donation would help to incentivize this to reach its goal. Reach the goal of at least covering one of the channels.
Okay.
So that's what I'm going to do. Is anybody that joins the Patreon over at fund.lrn.fm, that's fund.lrn.fm, or Patreon. I don't know if people know how to spell that though. So
sure.
FUND, fund.lrn.fm. You go there. You can donate $2 a month or $5 or whatever amount you feel is appropriate if you think it's worth doing. And maybe it's not worth doing. And that's why I'm thinking about this, is because the contract for the satellite time comes up every 3 years. And so that's going to come up in 2021. So we've got plenty of time. It's not coming up until the summertime, basically.
Okay.
So you have plenty of time to, find out if people actually do value this, because I don't mind doing activism, and it's not about the money for me so much as it is feeling like it matters to enough people. Like, why do something if the market doesn't support it? If there's not enough support to keep a thing going in the marketplace, then should it really continue going? That's kind of one of the questions I've been toying with recently.
Well, it depends on how you're measuring support.
Like, in this case, in dollars.
It has the support, in that someone has been paying for it. So presumably you.
Yes, the Shire Free Church has been paying for this. Yeah.
So it does have support.
Sure.
But it's not a large number of people who are willing to shoulder that support.
Correct. And there's not enough to where it could be sustainable, in that there aren't enough people to get to that point. At least, maybe it's because we haven't talked about it enough or whatever. So check it out at fund.lrn.fm, and you can learn more about the fundraiser there. And so I just wanted to bring that to your attention. So, and we'll look at it closer as time goes on. But that's where we're starting. So back to a different story here completely. This one's been put all over the place, so I feel like we should talk about it. A lot of people have been sharing this link about what's happening in Victoria, Australia. And we've heard recent stories. It was, I think, Melbourne was on severe lockdown recently. I don't know if they still are. I presume so, but I have not been following the Melbourne situation. But it was like being described as one of the worst lockdowns on the planet. So, and I don't know where Victoria is in relation to Melbourne, but police in Victoria have arrested a pregnant 28-year-old woman in front of her partner and 2 children for planning an anti-lockdown protest in regional Victoria this weekend. So the very same thing that you and I have done, Aria, we've planned protests. We've been involved in going to and helping put together protests and promoting protests here in New Hampshire over the last several months during this COVID crackdown. Imagine if they could just swoop in and arrest you before the thing even happened. That's what happened in Victoria.
Now, this is I'm assuming the Australians don't have a right to protest, a right to get out in the streets, and right to peacefully assemble is what I'm looking for.
They might, but supposedly we do as well, and that's been infringed upon, right? So I don't know what the Australian Bill of Rights, if they even have something like that.
That's a good point. It never occurred to me until like right now, but the bars being forced to close are a violation of people's right to peacefully assemble.
Well, that's one thing, although bars are open technically in New Hampshire.
But they weren't.
There was a time when they were closed, yeah, but at the same time, they were also violating your right to peaceably assemble by saying you can't get together with 10 people. That happened here too, which is why we started the nightcap events that have been wonderfully successful, and we've been doing every single week here. But if this were Australia, they could apparently just swoop right in and arrest us for simply talking about going to nightcap, simply coming up with the idea and promoting the idea of nightcap. This woman, Zoe Bueller, was arrested.
Well, presumably she made it publicly known that she was going to break the law?
Yeah, well, no. What they're going to argue, again, this is likely their argument. Under the so-called state of emergencies, it's illegal, claimed to be illegal to violate governor's orders here in the U.S. There's probably something very similar in Australia, because these are Western democracies, right? So there's similar laws in a lot of these places. But the idea being that if you violate the governor's order,
the governor isn't my boss, though. He's not a king.
I agree with you, and that's going to be an argument that hopefully we'll be able to make in court at some point. But they are saying that you must obey the governor's orders, and if you don't, then it's a misdemeanor charge.
But they arrested her.
Correct, because they're charging her what they're calling incitement. And in Victoria, I pulled up the Victoria judicialcollege.vic.edu.au. Incitement has 2 elements. 1, the accused incited a person to pursue a course of conduct that would, if acted upon, involve the commission of an offense, which is the principal offense. And 2, at the time of the inciting conduct, the accused intended that the principal offense would be committed. So that means that if
I find it extremely unlikely that she did that. She probably never
created a Facebook event.
Yeah, she never encouraged anyone to go, I would imagine.
That's the point of the Facebook event, is to encourage people to go. Why would you create a Facebook event?
She just created an event that if people wanted to, they could go.
The point of creating an event on Facebook is to encourage people to go to a thing. That's why you make the event.
It's to put it out there that people can go to the thing if they so choose.
Well, maybe she should hire you for her defense attorney. Because they're going to argue.
She should definitely not do that.
Yeah, they're going to argue that the whole point of this was to encourage people to leave their homes, to go out to this event.
So
and
are they
break the
mind
law.
readers? They know what she was thinking when she did this?
She probably posted in the event, "Hey, come on out," or whatever.
That's
right?
still not encouraging them to do it. That's just saying, hey, this is happening. If you want to come, there will be people there.
She said apparently she created a Freedom Day event on Facebook calling for people to protest against the Victorian government's lockdown measures. Quote, this was the description for the event, which has now been deleted. Quote, as some of you may have seen, the government has gone to extreme measures and are using scare tactics through the media to prevent the Melbourne protest. Here in Ballarat, that's the name of the town, Ballarat, we can be a voice for those in stage 4 lockdowns. We can be seen and heard and hopefully make a difference. So I guess she's maybe in an area where the lockdown isn't as oppressive as some of the other areas, but apparently it was worse than she thought. She was arrested ultimately in her home in front of her children, and she becomes distressed as she tells the officers that she's pregnant. Quote, I have no idea why you guys are doing this, she says. Really? Is she that confused about it? She says, I really don't understand what I've done wrong. This is ridiculous. I didn't realize I was doing anything wrong. Well,
they don't care.
They don't care. Yeah. They're not going to just cut you loose because you said that. And I agree. She wasn't doing anything wrong. She was doing the right thing. She was trying to bring people together and protest against this oppression. But unfortunately, that's not something that is going to work out for a lot of people in a lot of places. And that's why we need people to migrate here to New Hampshire who care about freedom. We'll see you tomorrow night. Online in the meantime, you can go to freetalklive.com.
Remember when you first heard about Bitcoin? How long did it take you to realize this little project would soon change the world? Do you kind of wish you had got involved sooner? Well, now is your chance to be a part of the next revolution in money. Intercoin is working to finally make crypto go mainstream. It's designed to be scalable enough to support everyday payments and even elections without the state. Bitcoin was originally supposed to be a peer-to-peer cash system, the way we would all pay one another without having to trust any third party. But instead, over time, it mostly became a store of value. That's because every 10 minutes, the Bitcoin network must put all transactions into a block, and that block can only hold so much. If crypto is to become mainstream for people to use it for everyday payments, we need a new architecture, one that is as secure as Bitcoin while being far more scalable. Check out intercoin.org to find out more and maybe pick up some of those coins for yourself.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's fff@fff.org.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
The latest episode of Declare Your Independence with Ernest Hancock is next after the news on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Cutting the purse strings. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. President Trump has signed a memo that threatens to cut federal funding to cities he's calling lawless, including Seattle, New York, Washington, D.C., and Portland. This afternoon, while in North Carolina, he talked about the demonstrations in Portland, some of which have become violent.
The mayor last night, he was raided. His home was raided. He was thrown out of his home. And then he'll stand up and he'll fight for these people. These people only know one thing, and that's strength. That's all they know, strength. And we have strength.
The memo states that he will not allow federal tax dollars to fund cities that allow themselves to deteriorate into what he called lawless zones. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo told reporters President Trump is trying to destroy New York City since he was elected, saying he has a personal animus toward the city. Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden campaigning in his home state of Delaware today, again accusing the president of botching the response to the pandemic.
If President Trump and his administration had done their jobs early on with this crisis, American schools would be open and to be open safely.
Biden saying the president didn't take the virus seriously enough. Postmaster General Louis DeJoy subpoenaed by the House Oversight Committee.
The Democratic-led panel is investigating operational changes that have slowed down mail delivery. Committee Chair Carolyn Maloney says DeJoy has not sufficiently answered questions or provided documents about those changes. DeJoy has testified twice in recent weeks about the removal of collection boxes and sorting machines. DeJoy suspended some changes until after the election, amid concerns the actions would undermine expanded vote-by-mail operations.
Fox's Jared Halpern, they called him Tom Terrific and the franchise. The greatest New York Mets pitcher of all time, Tom Seaver, has died. He'd been diagnosed with dementia last year and stepped away from public life shortly after. He was 75. America is listening to Fox News. Colorado Governor Jared Polis.
Who knew that the same company that made the twist ties around your loaf of bread also made the face shield delivered to your front door? Packaging solutions provider Bedford Industries stepped up in a big way during the pandemic with help from NetSuite, the world's #1 cloud business system. Here's Bedford's president, Jay Milbrandt.
At Bedford, we saw an opportunity to retool our products to create face shields. Thanks to the visibility and control NetSuite provides, we had the agility to change our business overnight. In no time, NetSuite helped us launch our first e-commerce site and handled crucial details from licensing to order tracking. Now we're taking orders from around the world 24/7. We couldn't have done it without NetSuite.
NetSuite by Oracle gives you visibility and control over your financials, HR, inventory, e-commerce, and more. Everything you need all in one place. They surveyed hundreds of business leaders and assembled a playbook of top strategies they're using as America reopens for business. Receive your free guide, 7 actions businesses need to take now, and schedule your free product tour at netsuite.com/Fox. netsuite.com/Fox.
It's announcing the state will invest $2 million to improve internet access across the state to help bridge the digital divide.
This access divide often falls along racial lines. Recent research from Colorado Future Center found that 2/3 of students that lack internet access in Colorado are Latino.
The money coming out of federal coronavirus funds, school districts would be able to use the money to buy hotspots for families who live in areas where broadband may not be available. T-Mobile announced it will provide up to 34,000 low-income student households with a free hotspot and 100 gigabytes of free data for a year and free or discounted tablets and computers. More parents caught up on the college admissions cheating scandal.
The U.S. attorney in Boston says Amin Khoury is the latest parent to be caught up in the scandal. Prosecutors say he paid $200,000 to get his daughter into Georgetown University as a tennis recruit, even though her tennis skills were not competition level. Khoury faces fraud and bribery charges. Also, former Southern Cal water polo coach Jovan Vavic changed his plea in the scandal to guilty. Vavic, who guided USC to 16 national titles, now says he took $250,000 to pass off 2 students as recruits. He's accused of conspiracy to commit federal programs, bribery. Gernal Scott, Fox News.
The State Liquor Authority in New York is investigating a Long Island bar that reportedly took bets on whether Chicago or New York would have more shootings over Labor Day weekend. Newsday reports the bar called Clifton